We will be live in just a minute or two. About a minute. For those of you in the room early, we always appreciate people being early. I actually did all my sharing early. What is wrong with this picture? Just a matter of seconds. Just a matter of seconds. Just a matter of seconds. There we go. We will be live in 3, 2, and 1.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view? Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you'll cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom studio here in Bethlehem Township, Bethlehem Landfill Township. It's been a few weeks. Bethlehem Landfill Township, a wholly owned subsidiary of Waste Management after their purchase of our township council, what used to be the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in these United States on this planet Earth. The only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect live for the 10th of April, 2022. Let me quickly thank every single one of you who have reached out in the yet another off week, unplanned off week that we had last week. Without boring you to death and without trying to drown you in detail you probably don't want, let me just say, I will get into it later in the program, but for now, let me tell you that last Sunday we were dealing with a couple of things here at home. I have quite literally a broken back. I have, I believe, 2 stress fractures at the base of my back. Took 2 days off, but then worked the rest of the week because America, right? Your value in our modern society is only based on whether you can work, generate profit, and or be a consumer. So I did. And the second thing is that we lost a very, very valuable member of the family. and somebody that you've actually heard on this program before. And if you've ever seen me host an Our Revolution call or a candidates forum or anything outside of our program, you will know that a very important part of our family who's appeared on this program before, every now and then I would pick her up, stick her in the camera, and you've always heard her throughout the 3 full years of our program. And that was my oldest cat, Sis. Died in her sleep Monday night into Tuesday morning. She was extremely ill. She had a series of strokes that slowly took pieces of her away. She couldn't walk. She could not eat. She could not swallow. I'm not so sure she could see. And eventually it was too much. And her little body couldn't take it. Now, Sis was 20, which is pretty damn good. Cats, it's not unheard of for them to get to 25, but 20 is definitely on the outer edge. Way back in the dark ages, for her and for me, when I was married, we adopted Sis off the street with her brother Jake. She fit quite literally in the palm of my hand. She was actually really quite too young to be taken away from her mother, but her mother was a breeding machine. She was a stray cat who just kind of for a living made more cats. And, you know, a friend of ours rescued her and her brother Jake off the street and brought them to us, and we kept them. Jake died when he was 6 because he had feline AIDS, and his immune system never turned over, but Sis's system did turn over, and she lived to a ripe old age. And it's funny, Kristen has told me all week, you know, that she would not want you to be miserable, and she would not want you to cry at the drop of a hat, which I'm doing now. And then I said, well, then you didn't know Sis, because yes, she would, because it was her world. I was just living in it. I was just the guy that filled the food bowl, filled the water fountain, and I was the one lucky enough to have her on my lap. Not that she wanted to lay there, of course, or enjoyed it in any way, shape, or form, but I was the one lucky enough. So it's been a long couple weeks. I do apologize to you, my dear friends, my dear audience, every single one of you, and I mean it. You know, I say that every week. Our schedule has been very sporadic. We've only done shows about every 2 weeks now for probably 2 months. Not by plan, not by design. Health has gotten in the way a lot. Sis leaving us has gotten in the way. There's been there's been illnesses in there. There's been work has gotten in there. Petitions got in there. Next week, we won't be with you again because of Easter Sunday. It's kind of almost a little anathema for me to be with you on a Palm Sunday. This is a high holy day. But we won't be with you again next week either. So I apologize to you actually very sincerely, because I love being here with you. And I want to apologize to you for not being here as steadily and as that you can count on, let's say, every Sunday, the way I've always promised. It's been a rough few months, and I suspect it will continue to be a rough few months, rough few more months as Kristen and I campaign for state committee, and I go see a back doctor this week to see just exactly what I've broken, or if anything's broken, although I'm pretty certain it is, and so on. And our house continues to adjust here. It's very, very quiet. There is a big hole in our home. Our other cat guy has been beautifully. He's been brilliant. He really has. He's been absolutely brilliant. He's turned into quite even more of a lap cat than he was. He comes upstairs and kind of sleeps in the room with us a bit, but he continues to look for Sis and can't find her. And it's really interesting. I'll try to get into it a little later in the program, and maybe we can have a, I've been thinking this week that I really need to get somebody on from an animal welfare organization or a adoption agency or something of the sort to talk more about this, because we don't, there's a lot of us out there with furry family members, and they're not property, and they're not pets, and they're not animals in that sense of the word, their family. And I do think that coming up, we need to talk about that. 2 weeks from now is April 24th. Next week is Easter. The following is the 24th, and that will be our celebration show for our 3rd anniversary as we enter our 4th year of being with you. We are in our 4th calendar year, but we will be entering our 4th full year. Sadly, Easter fell on April 17th, which was actually the very first day 3 years ago that I joined you, that I began this program with just about, I think, somewhere around 8, 10, 12-ish places that we shared the program. We'll be celebrating our third, he meant to say, 3rd anniversary on April 24th. I would have done it next week because the calendar felt quite right, but Easter, not a good time. It's a high holy day. You should enjoy your Easter and be with your family. We will come back to you on the 24th and celebrate our 3rd full year in the books and entering our 4th. To all of you across the Facebook universe, we've shared the program to 100 different places. Please stay there, listen, enjoy, listen in the background, get ready for school. Almost done, kids. We're into April. We're getting there. 2 more months left. And finals for the big kids. Stay right there, listen in the background, watch whatever it is that you're doing. We are just thrilled that you are with us. To every single group that allows me to place my program on your page, I am deeply, deeply, deeply grateful. There's 100 different places I send it. I can't name you all off the top of my head. I will do so next week. I will name every group that has ever allowed me to share this as part of our anniversary celebration 2 weeks from now. You can stay there where you're watching, or you can come over to our home group Facebook page. That other side of information, that's where I'll see your comments. Already had a chat with Jordy. Patricia is here. Randall is here. We're happy that all of you are here. Send your questions, send your comments. I will ask them to our guest. Hot101.net is our first original. Actually one of the originators of Global Internet Radio, and we are beyond proud to be part of the Hot101.net family. If you don't know how to listen to Hot101.net, it is extremely simple. Our name is our web address. It is Hot101.net. You can find the Hot101.net apps, newly redesigned apps, even easier to use if it could have gotten any easier. Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and you can use the TuneIn radio app if you have any other type of device other than an Android or an Apple. And you can also play America's favorite game show. I haven't had anybody tell me yet that I did it, but you can do this. You can say, hey, Alexa, play Hot101.net. Someday somebody's going to tell me that I triggered their Alexa, and I'm going to giggle like a spoiled school child. We are also part of TCP, the Culture Professional, a minority-owned television outlet, and it deserves your support from right here in our own Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, from Lancaster. TCP. All right, that said, let's get to our guest. She's been extremely patient while I rambled on about family and health and all sorts of fun stuff. But then again, family and health is all part of politics, isn't it? It is, that's what we do, isn't it? Government is part of, it decides how long your family lives on occasion, the policies that government puts into place or the lack of policies. So let's get to her. Our guest is a Democratic candidate for the 4th U.S. House District from Ohio. As I put on the header of the post, when she is successful in the primary, she will have the distinct honor of extricating Jim Jordan from the United States House of Representatives, a place where, according to the 14th Amendment, a man like Jim Jordan is ineligible to serve. We will talk about that as well. Let us welcome to the program Tamie Wilson. Tamie, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so sorry to hear about your cat. Oh my God, that is so heartbreaking. I had a puppy. I bought a puppy from Petland years ago. This is before I really understood or knew much about puppy mills, but I got this puppy from the pet store. We had it one day, and the next day it woke up and it was sick, so I took it to the hospital, and she ended up dying of parvo. And I cried over that poor puppy for like 3 months that I had for one day. It was so terrible. So then we went back and they gave us another dog. And we were actually on vacation in Myrtle Beach. And my son had picked out the second dog and it died before we made it home. And I was like, there is something wrong with your store. It's infected with this illness. And so they ended up giving me another dog from another store. And so I've had her for, she'll be 6. So
this is why I am outside of the group, outside of our Facebook group, just on my own personal timeline. I pretty much, I don't do really any politics there. I do it. What I basically do there is animal advocacy, among which is don't shop, adopt. That tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. There she is.
Yep, there she is.
Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of domesticated animals are put down every year simply because they do not have a home. I always like to think that every candidate that visits us has a very under the radar kind of issue that is really important to them, something that most people probably would not think of in their top 10. And I am not running for office. I'm running for a Democratic Party position, but definitely my under the radar issue would be the status of domesticated animals. I never considered cis property. I've never considered any of my animals property. They are family. And if you don't want one and you can't take care of it like family, then don't effing get one. And it's that pretty bloody clear then, isn't it? But it would seem to me, and I don't want to necessarily take you down this rabbit hole because I want, you're here to talk about you and your candidacy, but we need to do something better than what we do for our furry family. They are not property. Now, to be fair, they are not fully vested humans, obviously, either. But it seems to me in a civilized society, and one of the ways that you judge a civilized society is how it protects those that cannot protect themselves, that we can come up with some sort of middle ground, something tantamount to the rights that children have for these souls. They cannot speak for themselves. They cannot defend themselves. They cannot represent themselves in court. The same way that nature has begun to be given rights so that it can defend itself in environmental actions and so on. Surely we can do the least for our furry family and remove the status of property. I thought we did that at the end of the Civil War. I thought living souls stopped being property, no matter how much the current Republican neo-fascist movement would like to send us all back to that. But that said, I'm taking you down a rabbit hole that I shouldn't. Maybe we can get into it deeper or later into the program. For now, let me start off. As I often do with all our guests, I have an opportunity to speak to them ahead of time, tell them what to expect, how the show operates and all that fun stuff. Tamie and I have been going back and forth about her being on this program for probably back to Christmas, maybe. It's been a long time. As soon as her first Facebook ad popped up on my in my world, I contacted her immediately, and we've just been going back and forth ever since, trying to find a good day. We finally found a good day. We're thrilled that she's here. It's important to me that she's here because, again, Kristen and I live here in Pennsylvania. We can sometimes get a little overly Pennsylvania centric and focused. It's really excellent to have someone from outside the Commonwealth grant us some time away from family and friends, and especially on a Sunday evening. And if that's a glass of wine, I'm so psyched because you're going to need it. I'm just kidding. I was going to be so psyched if that was a glass of wine. Like, how human?
Coke Zero.
How human would that be? It's Sunday and I'm tired and I'm sick of campaigning and damn it, I'm having a wine. It would have been awesome, but hey, that's all right.
I should have.
Yeah, you're an adult. I think you know how to handle it in your own home. So welcome to the program. Let me start off the way I promised we would. Who is Tamie Wilson and how did you get here?
Wow, it's such a loaded question. I am I am. That is the question, isn't it? I like to think of myself, and I've been told I'm a nice, kind, loving person. I care about people and animals. Talking about animals, I helped organize, which you probably have heard of, is the Pet Expo. It's really big in Pennsylvania, from what I understand. The organizer is actually from there. So I helped them organize the Pet Expo here in Columbus. But I am a concerned citizen. That is why I chose to run for office. I'm really, really upset and concerned about the future of our country and all of the rise in racism and hate and the division in our country. And I'm just a natural problem solver. And I got sick of screaming at the TV. I'm like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? So I thought, well, I should throw my hat in the ring and try to do something about it. I'm not one to sit back and not do anything. So I thought, well, I should go for it and see what happens. If anything, I will make these guys work for the position, and rather than, them to think that they can just put their name out there and win. So I'm going to make them fight for it. So.
And that's no small thing. I mean, it's why the framers set the terms on the different branches of government that they did, to keep them, to specifically keep them uneven, and to cause and create turnover. That's why it's 2 years in the House, 4 years in the presidency, 6 in the Senate, and lifetime, sadly, in the Supreme Court. Although let's remember that Congress has the power to regulate the courts and create new courts, by the way. But that said, and without constitutional changes, they can just simply do it by law. So they created that system purposefully so that there would be turnover, and that the incumbents would have to work for it. We just went through petitions here in the Commonwealth, two rounds of petitions because of our court decisions and redistricting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, ours are terrible.
Even if you're an incumbent and you've been there for 1 term or 20 terms, you still have to get a petition signed to get on the ballot. You have to work for it. And when no one runs against the incumbent, then you don't have to work for it. So it's not a small thing that you're doing. Let's be very clear about that. But what, tell me, let's start this way. Why, when you found yourself screaming at the TV, as we all do, what's the final thing that pushed you over?
It's such a list. It's so hard to narrow it down to one thing. But Trump,
there's a difference between
difference
between getting angry and saying, I'm going to run for office. It's a big
insurrection.
step.
The insurrection was really, I mean, George, it's just such accumulation of things. George Floyd, well, let's go back. Trump, I was like, oh my God, how did this guy get in the White House? And I'm still recovering from that. I'm just so thankful that I can wake up and not have to worry about going into another war because of a tweet. That's, nice to be able to sleep at night. But the insurrection was a really big one for me. I just, that was the moment where I was like, okay, enough is enough. I've got to do something. I have to try and solve this problem with our country. I just saw a country hurting. I mean, I could blame the other side. That doesn't get us anywhere. We have to be able to work together. And, it's called the United States, not the divided states. So we have to be able to listen and work together to solve issues. So a lot of that has to do with our media. I mean, I have a lot of ideas for solutions of things that we have to do, that we must do to help unify our country. But the insurrection was the straw that broke the camel's back, that I said, okay, I should go for it. Well, I guess it would be Rob Portman saying he wasn't going to run for Senate. And I was like, I should run. And I was being flippant about it. But then I thought about it. I was like, wow, okay, I'm biracial. I'm an entrepreneur. I was married to a Marine for 10 years. So I have the whole military life, the history of that world. which it's a whole different world. And if you haven't been a part of it, you don't understand what I'm saying. But if you have, then you do. So, and, my family, I come from a racist family. My grandma, when my mom told my grandma she's marrying my dad, my grandma said, "Why do you want to marry that dirty nigger anyway?" And my mom, she said, "Mommy, he showers every day." And my dad's brother, he was in the Black Panthers. And my dad told him he was marrying my mom. And he said, "What do you want to marry that white chick anyway?" And, fast forward 20 years, and my grandma, my mom and dad and uncle are all playing cards at the kitchen table, So I've seen the division in my own family, and I've seen, people come together. And if you met my dad, and, I was, Sidney Poitier's death really disturbed me, and I didn't realize why, but he just reminds me so much of my dad, because my dad is just a very kind, soft-spoken, peaceful guy. He doesn't really get excited or riled up about anything. He likes to laugh and joke around, but he's just very subdued, and Sidney Poitier, he just kind of reminded me of my dad. And I remember watching, films with him growing up, and he kind of reflected my life, because back then they didn't really have, those type of films. But anyway, so yes, the insurrection is what really disturbed me. And when Rob Portman said, "I'm retiring," I said, well, I should run. And so I actually started running for the Senate. But then I started thinking about all of the, my solutions to problems. And I thought, well, I would be better suited for the House. And so that's when I shifted gears and decided to run for the House instead, and bite off that apple rather than attacking the whole state. So
You just told the story of your family that certainly came from a lot of backgrounds that sadly too many Americans have lived through.
I
And then
still,
yet-
I have Trump supporting families that live in rural Gallipolis, Ohio, right by that power plant. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about if you're into climate change. And the OVEC plant, it's called the Tiger Creek Power Plant. I had family members that lived across the street from that plant that died of cancer. And the pollution would actually go across, sky, and it would land in my grandma's yard. And if you walked down the hill in her yard, your feet would be black by the time you got down. It's just terrible. So yes, I have a lot of Trump supporters in my family.
If I was to kind of lift you out of that family story for a second, even the Bible tells us that the freed slaves from Egypt had to wander the desert for 40 years before the generation that defiled God died off. And only then were they allowed to enter into the promised land. I tend to think that this Trump generation might be the same thing. I don't see a way out. I don't see a coming together again. I see rescuing this country, or even just a minimum of maintaining it, is going to have to come from the Democratic Party, the progressives, and disaffected independents, or better meaning, better well-intentions, better thinking independents, and some disaffected Republicans. Why are you optimistic that the country can be brought back together? Because to be blunt, I sit here every week, well, almost every week. I'm not optimistic about it. Why are you?
Someone has to be. We can't give in to, we have to stay optimistic. We have to stay persistent, and we cannot just cut bait and move on. You know what I mean? We cannot do that, because, unfortunately, these people have been brainwashed. And that's how I look at it, really, because if you think of how it happened, they have been, anyway, so I was watching, like, one of my favorite shows is The View. It's full of panel full of women, and they had a QAnon supporter on there. And she said that she had seen an ad about children and Democrats that scared her to death. And so that is how they groom or seduce these people. And, they get them sucked in. And then that's when the brainwashing starts. It's just this gradual takeover. And so it, sucked this woman in, and it took her away from her family. So she was so, just enthralled with everything that she was seeing on the internet and through TikTok. It happened through TikTok. That's how they got her. And so she was just so much into this world that she was away from her own family. And so they kept having all of these, okay, on this day, this is what's going to happen, and then that day would come and it wouldn't happen, and oh my God, I just think about, I see these JFK signs behind you, and how they said that JFK Jr. was going to be, at the grassy knoll to run with Trump. Okay. He's dead. He's a Democrat. I mean, the list goes on. And they had like over 200 people waiting. I mean,
Yeah. I'm surprised it was that few.
Crazy. It's crazy. So, with the right-wing media, with the social media, with Fox News, I mean, I'm just waiting for someone to get the balls to take out Fox News. We've got to do something about that, or at least have a flashing, it's all fake, or it's not news, or something, while they're broadcasting. I don't know. But
the Finnish government has actually begun a curriculum in their elementary schools. Children as young as the third grade are now being taught, third or fourth, might be third. I think it's third. I'm working from memory, as I often do. Are now beginning a curriculum in the third grade in Finland to teach, and it is rapidly spreading throughout Scandinavia. They are often on the leading edge of, actual humanity in this country, the way we used to do things here, of teaching their youth the difference between real facts, science, data, and history, and propaganda. And it would seem to me that we should be doing the same thing, or at least thinking about it. 5:32 Eastern time. Quick reset here. We are live for the first time in a couple of weeks. We thank you for being so patient with us, and everywhere that has welcomed our program again this week. We're very, very grateful. And again, my apologies for the very sporadic schedule the last couple of months. Again, health, campaigning, work, just about everything you could think of has gotten in the way. We will be off again next week for Easter. We hope you have a blessed, peaceful Easter, and then we return to you for our third anniversary program on the 24th, wherever you might be on Facebook. 100 different places we've shared the program this week. Continue to watch, listen, enjoy however it is that you're taking in the program. If you want to comment or be part of the program, please come to our home group Facebook page. That other side of information, I will see your comments and questions in the chat. And I, of course, will ask them of our guest. Hot101.net is the originator of global internet radio. Our web address is our name. It's hot101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and the TuneIn radio app. And of course, you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net, and TCP, the culture professional from Lancaster. I will be on their Roku channel I think I'm either airing Mondays or Tuesdays, and the morning show will return tomorrow morning. Tell me about the district. Tell me about Columbus. Here is our main base of support for the program, obviously, is here in Pennsylvania. Columbus would be a city that we would recognize very, very easily. It could be Pittsburgh to us. It could be Carlisle. It could be Mechanicsburg. It could be Bethlehem. It could be any one of 100 cities probably throughout the Commonwealth. A city that was part of, we now refer to it as the Rust Belt, because that's what happens to unattended to metals, isn't it? It rusts and rots. But it is part of the Rust Belt. It was an industrial, a gritty industrial center from the turn of the century on. It is a city that has been absolutely gutted by Republican policies since Nixon, and especially since Reagan. So tell me about the district. How did the 4th district become, and actually Ohio, one of the states in the union that is actually trending deeper red, unlike pretty much every other state in the union that is either holding or trending blue, like Arizona or some of the New England states. Why? Tell me about your district. Why is it red? Why on earth is Ohio red?
Okay, so there's a lot of myths about Ohio. It's actually 54% Republican and 45% Democrat. We're not that far off. The problem is that the GOP keeps passing their gerrymandered maps, which makes it more difficult for Democrats to win seats in our state government, let alone our federal government as well. Our maps are still contested right now. They're still not settled. I had to file my petition, talk about petitions, I had to file my petition without even having a map decided. And it got to the point where they're just going with this gerrymandered map that is like, I think it's 66% Republican now and like 33 Democrat or something. So they filed a lawsuit, but that lawsuit actually won't take place till for 2024 election. Why they didn't do it now, I have no idea. So my primary is May 3rd. The state and Senate, Ohio State and Senate maps, they're still undecided. It is so bad here. Luckily, we have just an ethical Republican on the Supreme Court who keeps rejecting these gerrymandered maps, and now they want to impeach her. I mean, it's crazy. It is really crazy here. And talking about their legislation, they are trying to well, they took away the power of our governor to issue mask mandates. Governor DeWine was he was one of the spearheads in, mask mandates and safety for everyone.
He's one of the few Republicans in the country that took the virus seriously.
Yeah.
Like literally one of the few.
Yeah, that really pissed them off. And so they took his power away. And so recently, and I'm sure you heard about the shooting in Dayton, right? Mm-hmm. And so he was going to do all kinds of gun legislation. Well, forget about that. He passed the no permit carry. So now you don't even need to have a permit or training or anything in Ohio to carry a gun. I mean, it is just crazy. It's crazy.
And that, and again, goodness knows I don't want to continue to repeat the same question over and over again. That's boring as sin. But it does kind of lead me back to why I asked you the question earlier. What on earth continues to give you hope? There is quite possibly nowhere in this country that should be more at least purple, if not blue, than Ohio. I say the same thing about Pennsylvania. We have been gutted. Mm-hmm. We have had large chunks of our Commonwealth body removed by Republican policies, especially Nixon opening up China, the trickle down of the 80s and Reaganism, the $50 trillion in tax cuts on the top 1%. What on earth could a state like Ohio do with even 1 trillion of that? What could Pennsylvania do with 1 trillion of that?
Yeah.
How on earth does a state and a populace that has had damn near everything taken from it, including its dignity, continue to vote for the very people and policies that did it to them in the first place? At what point does Ohio get exactly the damn government it deserves? Which is obviously something you can't say on the campaign trail, obviously, but I'll say it. Ohio.
I would love to win the primary, and then Jim Jordan goes to jail, and then I would win my seat by default.
Well, I can argue, but
I just pray for that. Like
I
every
hope
day.
someone in Ohio is suing under the 14th Amendment that he
They
is.
are. They are.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank goodness,
They're
because
already
we
on
are
it.
here.
I think that's why he's been so quiet. I don't know if you've noticed, but we haven't really heard much from him lately.
Oh, well,
I
let's
wonder
not
if that's why.
let us not look over the irony of that the right is swimming in pedophilia right now. That is the
Oh, I
single
know.
biggest thing facing our country. But then again, who was knee deep in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your opponent.
I know.
That should be another reason why
Oh.
he should skulk
You
off into
know,
a corner,
and
hide under a desk.
I always, not always, but at least once or twice a month, I'll mention the sexual abuse at OSU, and I do it in community groups. And sure enough, I will get one of those Trump supporters. Oh, I love Jim Jordan, and I'm like, well, how can you forget the fact that he didn't do anything to stop sexual abuse? And they say, well, this isn't about that. I'm like, oh yes, it is.
When you make the appointment of a Supreme Court justice all about that,
oh yeah,
then bloody well right it's about that. You don't get to bring it up and then walk away from it.
Yeah, my intention is to put it in their face so they have to look at it and actually make a conscious choice to ignore it. I want their conscience to haunt them. And so, but to answer your question, and I'm on a lot of Zoom meetings to meet a lot of people, to learn more strategy. And I like to be informed. I love learning things and meeting different. I wrote an op-ed, and I put vote with your family in mind. And again, it really goes back to educating the public, and it's really unfortunate, but our Ohio Democratic Party could be more organized. There are a lot of counties that don't have a website. They don't have an office. They are not on social media. So if you look at the right side, they're extremely organized. They are pushing social media like there's no tomorrow. But, the Democrats are failing to do that. And, being the problem solver I am, I offered to build them a website, offered to put them on social media and train them. And unfortunately, they didn't take me up on it. So, we can't complain when we don't win elections. I mean, that's just batshit crazy.
And not only that,
I'm sorry, I think that's so stupid.
And not only that, but would you characterize it? I shouldn't characterize it for you. Would you characterize that the party establishment in your district, if not throughout the state, how would you characterize their support of you or lack of support of you?
Oh, there's no support. There's no support.
Why do you believe that is? You are in no way responsible for answering for them, but you're experiencing it. So why do you believe that is?
A lot of our government comes from the north. There's a lot of Clevellandites in the northern part of Ohio that run our government and our party, and they know each other. I'll leave it at that.
The gentleman that you're running against, I am assuming, I will be very upfront and transparent, and I'm realizing now that like literally sitting here realizing now that I didn't do it. I should have done it. I haven't even Googled the gentleman. He is a middle-aged white male, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Why does the party believe that running a light version of what you're trying to get out of office is a good strategy instead of someone like you who looks like your community, who's actually started a business, run a business? Why would that not be? I guess I'm asking you the question backwards in a way, because I'm asking it, I guess, from a negative standpoint instead of a pro Tamie standpoint. But it would seem to me that it's someone who is as ingrained, sadly, in your district as Mr. Jordan is, and is a national figure, whether we like it or not, darling of the right, neo-fascist, I would call it. It would seem to me that the you are exactly the antithesis of that, and therefore make a very logical candidate to run against him. But it seems the party,
I think so.
but it seems the party in Ohio doesn't agree. Do you have any idea why that might be? Has anyone told you quietly, in the hallways
well,
that, Tammy, we like you, but
I've heard so many things, and it's interesting. They just go with the white guy. I mean, that's just the way it is, seriously. And what really irks me is when I have women who say that they are women's livers, that they're women activists, and they tell me that they're going to go with the guy. I'm like, how can you do that when women make over 50% of the population?
they're about 54% of the national population.
24% in the Senate, US Senate, 26% in the House, and then at best 30% in state and local government. I'm like, how can you do that? That just blows me away. I think, and it kind of reminds me of Biden, right? I think that the Democratic Party, they go with what they think, not what they want, but what they think is the safe bet, whether it's the best bet or what could be done. And that's why we just really aren't making the progress that we really want and need.
Is it, without trying to put words in your mouth, is it kind of like, let's take the safe route, let's win, then we'll figure out the policy later?
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than run on
because there is no policy on that side. I have a whole list of things that I want to do that I'm fighting for. My platform is not that I'm just running against Jim Jordan. I have a whole list of things and people that I represent that I want to help get some things done for. And
folks, if you're not familiar with what Tammy just said, she just stated a fact to you. The Republican National Committee voted back in, I want to say February. I think it was February. They actually had an RNC convention, shocker, at Mar-a-Lago and voted to have no national platform whatsoever. None. One of the two major political parties in this country, and again, I've told you repeatedly, week after week after week, I don't think they even are a functioning political party any longer. They're a corporation. They're a cult and a corporation. They're not a functioning political party. But one of the two political parties in this country, and you need at least two to have a democracy, kids. There is no democracy without choice. I would love to see a functioning Republican Party again. I don't see it coming anytime soon. Again, I think the 40 years wandering in the desert is the only thing that's going to cure the Republican Party. But that said, they literally voted to have none, zero political platform, policy platform whatsoever. One of the two major national political parties in this country has no policy platform at all. None. They stand for nothing.
All they do is they run on fear. And that's where you hear.
And that's why you run on fear, because you don't have anything to offer.
Right.
No leadership, no guidance, no future, no policy, no plan.
It's all emotion. And Democrats really need to take some cues on that, So.
And your opponent's been very, very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Running on absolutely nothing, standing for absolutely nothing other than
15
scary.
years.
Right.
He hasn't introduced anything. He's voted against things that would actually help his people. I mean,
so how does he keep winning?
I have no idea. I think now it's to the point that it's just their loyalty to Trump. And so I think until we get Trump in jail, that our country is never going to be the same. I don't know. It's really concerning.
Why do you think it is that a district like yours continues to vote against its own self-interest? Is it as simple as a right-wing hate media machine, or do they somehow think that they're shrinking wages over nearly 5 decades now, going back to Nixon opening China, is good? Do they actually believe that the more money the top 1% has is good for them? Because 50 trillion just in income tax cuts alone,
Well,
none of that has trickled.
again,
We're all still waiting for it to trickle down. You know, the old saying, I don't swear on this program. We stick up to, you know, we hold the
I'm
FCC,
sorry.
even though the FCC does not regulate us, we hold to it, but I'll let one slip. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. I know bloody well what it is.
Yeah.
Do they honestly think that if they just keep voting this way, it'll get better? Because you
Well,
have to, I find it hard to believe that folks, and God knows, we got millions of them here in PA. You are not alone there.
mhm.
And there are tens of millions throughout the country. You know, like it or lump it, Trump gets 74 million votes. But
Yeah, I don't believe that. But
we,
yeah.
you know, at what point, I have to try to believe that in the minds of these folks, when they go to the grocery store and can't afford to fill the basket anymore, can't afford to fill the tank, can't afford a doctor, the schools are crumbling, that they somehow think, oh, damn well better off than we were in 1979, man. I'll tell you what. They've got,
Well,
what has to happen to you before you realize that we're not better off, are we? We're not.
again, you have to look at what they are hearing, and it goes back to the mis and disinformation. So now, who's to blame for all that? Biden is blamed for all of that. They don't look at all the Republican. Look, Republicans have an agenda. They do have an agenda, and their agenda is to go to an autocracy. That is their end goal agenda. That's why they do not work with Democrats.
Use the F word. Use the F word, Tammy. You're an adult. There is an F word. There is an F word we can use in politics, and it's called fascism, the merger of corporate and state interest.
It's terrible. And so, you know, these uninformed, uneducated, I can't even say only uneducated, because I know a lot of educated people that are Trump supporters that are telling me, oh, within 10 years, we'll be under one rule. I mean, how scary is that? That terrifies me. So, you know, again, we have to get the media and social media under control, because it is destroying our country. And we're never going to get it. I mean, we are really, really at a very delicate point right now to actually be able to change things, but we have to do it. And, you know, I don't know why the Democrats aren't doing more. This is the stuff that drives me nuts. I'm like, why aren't you doing something about the social media and all of this crap that is, you know, spewed? You know, at least overturn the Reagan media laws that they overturned back in the 80s. At least do that
Well,
much. At least
they didn't overturn anything. Stop enforcing it.
well,
And most people do seem to believe that the fairness doctrine is going to save us from all this. The fairness doctrine did not regulate what was said on television. It simply said that it had to be balanced out. News, providing news on what was at way back in the day, the 3 major networks, was not meant to be a profitable endeavor. It was part of the public trust of using the public airwaves. We have forgotten that the airwaves are public. They are part of the commons. The FCC grants licenses to broadcast. Internet radio has shattered all of that, because you don't need a broadcasting license to broadcast on internet radio. And that's part of why it's filled with such, you know what? There are people on the right who would consider my program to be part of that, you know what, because they don't want to learn anything, or don't want to hear truth, sadly, or don't believe truth to be truth. Fairness doctrine doesn't save us from any of that. It simply says that if you are going to have one candidate on, you must provide equal time. It also says that if the owner of any given station or license provides commentary, that it must be balanced out with an opinion from the other side. Fairness doctrine will not stop Fox News. It won't. No. It won't stop it, but at least we could start. It's the Telecommunications Act of 96 that has to be repealed. And who signed that in 1996? That would have been a Democratic president. The broke down all the barriers for people to own multiple outlets inside of a market. You can own a TV. You couldn't own a TV station and a newspaper and a radio station. You could pick one.
Yeah.
Now you can own them all. Now you can own multiple stations inside
There's
of
a lot of
market.
monopolies in our country, and farmers have felt that more than anyone. So yeah.
Well, that's another
But
group.
we have to do something. And that is really the core issue, is the information that, and I mean, you have to look at it from their standpoint. That's all they hear. And they're hearing it from like 50 different platforms, and Democrats, unfortunately, we're always on the defensive. And I'm like, get on the offensive. We need to control the narrative of these things, not be on the defensive all the time. We're never going to get anywhere. And so we really need to be more strategic with things and get ahead of the 8 ball. And talking about being ahead of the 8 ball, domestic terrorism is on the rise, but we do not have any de-radicalization programs in the U.S. Violence is a big part of my platform. Domestic violence, domestic terrorism, racism, hate crime, mass shootings, school shootings. I have solutions for all of those things. And, we have to get ahead of the 8 ball in terms of, they know that these radical groups are growing. They know how they're growing, and they talk about dismantling them. But what are you going to do about their head? You have to do something about how they're thinking and change their thinking and their mindset. And no one's even talking about that. Someone needs to start talking about that. That is an issue. And so that's, with my background of being a life coach and business coach, the mental, how you think and feel about things is really the core of everything that I'm taking to DC. And I think it's a really big issue. So
I'm sure you have rural parts of the district as well. You mentioned,
but
you
let
mentioned
me tell you, the Proud Boys are in my district.
They're probably in every district, whether people know it.
No, but the guy that went to jail from the insurrection, he's from my district.
I want to, it's a very dangerous place to go in anywhere near Mr. Jordan's brain. Do you think he believes what he espouses, or does he just realize it keeps him in office and he makes money from it?
That's no different than Trump. These guys, they know the dog whistles. They know what to say. And again, it goes back to emotion. They get these people all riled up and get them so angry. And what do? They don't have anything to do but to explode. They don't, you know what I mean? It's like, but the thing that really I just find really humorous and ironic is that everything that they say that they're against is everything the Republicans are doing. And it's like, you have displaced anger here. If you just knew the truth, then I'm just waiting for someone in their camp to like, wait, we're angry at the wrong people. We need to turn it around the other way. And oh my God, that would be such a great
well, it's profitable, isn't it?
War. Oh,
it's profitable, isn't it?
I mean,
Mr.
really,
Jordan wasn't a millionaire before he went to Congress.
He's raised $8 million, and none of it has come out of his own district. I mean, and he voted against taking foreign money. I mean, I don't know.
Was he one of the no votes? Was he one of the no votes for the resolution to support NATO on Friday?
Oh, hell yes. Voted no on that. He voted no on the child, what was it called? The child stipend, the month.
The child tax credit. Yes, he did.
He voted against. He votes against everything that would help people in his district. The farm bill, good Lord. I mean, come on. He voted against the farm bill because of the damn wall. Let me just tell you that Ohioans, they care like 1% about the border. 1%. But all of these were, oh my God, you should see the ads.
Do you happen to know?
The ads are horrible.
How many children in your district were lifted out of poverty by the child tax credit? It was over 40 million nationwide. How might you happen to know how many children it was in the district?
Write that down. No, I have to write that down. That's a good
Because
one.
they are now back in poverty.
Oh yeah, they stopped it.
Right, having the child tax credit taken away. Yeah, talk about standing for.
I'm one of them. You know,
Oh yeah,
my kid, my son, he's like almost 17. He eats nonstop. I just went to feed him.
it's that time. Well, it's that time of life, isn't it? Wait till he can't eat like that anymore. I always tell teenagers, wait till your metabolism catches up with you.
Oh, I know.
Like
Oh
this.
my God, tell me about it. I just sniff food now and gain 5 pounds. So.
6 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States. You are live with us. The Kennedy Effect is live for the 10th of April, 2022. We missed you. Thank you for being patient with us in this very, very sporadic schedule that we have been bringing to you week on, week off, week on, week off. Again, we will not be with you next week for Easter. I apologize again for the sporadic scheduling, but you know, a high holy day is not really time to be sitting here and talking about depressing political things. Be with family, have a nice meal. Hopefully the weather will be good for you. To our friends, I want to mention this too, actually, our technical producer and a gentleman who's been my friend for 2 decades now, George. You all know George. We usually talk to each other a bit at the end of the program. He will have a Zoom square up that you can look at where he's putting information and quotes and facts and so on. George is not here this week because his basement flooded. When we talk about climate change, George is in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, if any of you are familiar with the geography of Pennsylvania. And the rains that we had this past week put quite the swimming pool in George's basement, and he's been dealing with it ever since. So climate change is not always a burning forest. It's not always blowing the top off of a mountain to take the coal out of it. It's not always blood diamonds and lithium strip mining. Sometimes it's thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of flooded basements, creeks, rivers, and so on from a deluge of rainfall, which George is dealing with right now. So, of course, we wish him the best, and he will be back with us, I assume, actually, that he will be back with us for our 3rd anniversary program on the 24th. Wherever you are on Facebook, 100 different places we've shared through this week, please feel free to stay there and enjoy. If you'd like to join the conversation, that other side of information is our home group Facebook page. Hot101.net is the web address and our name, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and the TuneIn radio app. And, of course, you can tell Alexa to play Hot101.net, and TCP, the culture professional from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Really important, a minority-owned business that grows exponentially every month. It seems that they're doing something new. They have a new important person in to talk to on the morning shows. It's a real important thing. And how this damn near translucent face ended up on a minority-owned business, I hope speaks well of our program, but we're proud to be part of their family and the Hot101.net family. We encourage you strongly to support both. Tammy, let's move on from the depressing section of the program. As Patricia reminded me in the comments, when do we get to the positive stuff? So let's get to the positive stuff. You said you had an entire list of policy positions. Name as many as are important to you. What are you running for?
Oh wow. I actually aligned myself with a bunch of other Democrats running for office. And so I have things that I'm working on, and they have things that they are taking to DC as well. So one of them is, it's called OT40, and it would stop taxing on overtime, and it would stop taxing bonuses that are $10,000 and under. There is another gentleman that's working on stop taxing Social Security. You've already been taxed on Social Security. You should not get double taxed. That's double dipping.
Do you know the history of that?
No, I don't know the complete
After
history.
Ronald Reagan dropped the top tax rate from 74% down to 25%, there was a massive budget deficit, and he grew the national debt. He quadrupled the national debt. He came into office where there was a national debt, to be fair. It was about 600, if I'm remembering, about $600 million. By the time he left office, it was over 5 trillion. He dropped the top marginal tax rate from 74% to 25%, dropped the capital gains tax rate from, I think it was 35% down to 15, and allowed CEOs to be paid in stock, which before that was illegal. To make up the money, he rose taxes on the middle class and poor people 18 times, among which was taxing unemployment benefits. Because after all, you're out of work. Unemployment is meant to keep you afloat. Might as well tax that, right? That sounds logical, of course, right? And the double taxation of Social Security. Remember also, folks, there's a cap on the Social Security tax. If you make anything more than around $140,000, that's not taxed. If you wanted to fund Social Security, make the program, and remember, Medicare is part of Social Security, and make it solvent for at least the next 75 years, eliminate the tax on Social Security. Your Social Security tax came from Ronald Reagan. That's a fact. It is indisputable. It is history. There is no other way to look at it. It is truth. That's what we do here. So when Tammy says eliminating the tax on Social Security, that is a huge bonus to those who depend on the program. And the way to pay for that, of course, is eliminate the cap. So I interrupted you. I apologize, but that is folks need to know the history and the etymology of that.
Mm-hmm.
So please continue. Sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you. So those things, hitting the pocketbook, I think is really important, putting more money into the middle class. I would definitely back the $15 at least per hour. I mean,
which still is under the federal poverty wage, by the way.
Totally.
It's only about 30.
Totally. It's just like, we could fund I don't know if you're aware, but Amazon made like 33 million an hour during COVID. An hour. And, and I have people in my district that paid more tax than they did. And it's just like, how can that not upset you? It just baffles me. We could fund all of the programs if we just taxed, these corporations and everything.
The top marginal tax rate in this country was as high as 94% in our history. And not 94% on all of your income, but in modern dollars, if you make more than $4 million, you would get hit with the 94% tax rate. And it's why the rich didn't pay themselves more than that. It created an artificial maximum salary. Because why would you pay yourself 5 million, 6 million, 10 million, 100 million if you were going to pay 94% tax rate on anything over 4 million? It simply didn't make sense. It created an artificial kind of a soft cap, so to speak, if you're a sports fan. It created a bit of a soft maximum wage. There are CEOs in this country who now earn thousands of times what their lowest paid employee earns. Mr. Bezos' wealth doubled during the pandemic, as Tammy mentioned. Not just the valuation of Amazon itself, Mr. Bezos doubled his wealth while we were all being asked by our government to stay home so that we did not overwhelm the for-profit hospital system. And that's why you were asked to stay home, folks, so that we didn't overwhelm a for-profit hospital system not built to actually handle sick people.
Yeah.
That's why we were asked to stay home. Mr. Bezos doubled his wealth. Where did you think the doubling of that wealth came from? It came from pandemic relief support.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of which came from the Trump regime.
Yeah.
He was the first one to send money out. Funny how Republicans didn't bother him then, did it?
No.
What
and
else?
Then, talk about the healthcare system. I came up with this idea years ago, and I approached the CEO of Nationwide Insurance, and I came up with a wellness program, because most corporations, their wellness program is stop smoking and lose weight, and that's about it. But I'm like, no, you really need to get more comprehensive with it and teach financial literacy, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, and healthy communication skills, you have to address the core issue of addiction. You know, why is this person's life so out of balance that they feel the need to numb themselves with alcohol and drugs? And, you know, same thing with food addiction, or, you know, why is their life out of balance that they're seeking out these vices, if you will. So, and he looked me in the eye and he said, people won't do that. And he's like, it's all about logistics. And I could just see his brain and calculating all the money that he thought that they would lose. But my program actually would have made them trillions of dollars had he done what I was suggesting, you know, because I was looking at it like, if we make people well, then we're going to have less claims for the insurance to pay out, right? And they could make money off of selling this wellness program to different corporations. So they would still make money. But no, he didn't. He did not get that.
Well, it's
But
a lot
anyway,
cheaper to deny care.
keep them sick. I love what Chris Rock said. I don't know if you're a Chris Rock fan, but in one of his first stand-ups, Blacker Than Black, he said the government or healthcare system, they're like the drug dealer. They get you on the comeback. And it's about, you know, and that goes back to any kind of medication you take, it has a list of side effects, right? And so it just causes.
And they sell you medicine for the side effect, and then they sell you medicine for the
it's
side
just
effect
a
of that.
cycle. Yeah, it's just, you know, but then let's go back to the environment and climate and pollution, you know, so we make people sick. And then you look at the crops and the pollution and you know, I don't care what anyone says. I know that something in the fertilizer or something in the crops, it has to do something to our system. The hormones, I'm not sure what it is, but something is causing, you know, all of the cancer and autism and everything is just skyrocketed. And you can't tell me it's just because there's more people. I don't believe
There was a Guardian article this week that we posted at that other side of information that microplastics have now been found in the lungs of living people, not just after autopsy in folks who have passed on, but in living folks who are now have microplastics in the lungs and bloodstream of living human beings around the globe, not just here in our humble United States, but around the globe. And I'm sure, and again, when you it would seem to me that the environment would be a natural, no pun intended, would be a natural issue that folks in the Columbus area could rally around, but yet not happening, is it?
Well, Columbus, yes, but we're talking about the rural areas. And my district is very rural. It's not in Columbus, unfortunately. If it was, I'd win hands down. But no, it's no.
So why do you think that the farmers, especially, not just to single them out, but you have farmers in your district, but why do you suppose the farmers, the folks who quite literally, whose existence is dependent upon the environment, are some of the most resistant to trying to save it? Or is there no explanation for it? Because I can't find one.
Well, I will say that Jim Jordan upset a lot of the farmers. So that's good. Because he broke promises, and he broke promises to everyone. I mean, he quit taking people's calls, for goodness sakes. So they are upset about that. They are upset the fact that he didn't pass the farm bill. I mean, there's 3 suppliers in our country, and there's 4 meat packers. Monopoly, it's just all over the place. So these poor farmers, their expenditures have doubled since last year, and their input has decreased. So, you know, talk about inflation. I mean, and then the dairy farmers, oh man, they really got hit hard. So they were taxed like $50,000, and they were told they were going to get like 80% back. They're getting $7,000 back. That's it. And they still haven't even gotten that. They should have gotten it in December. They're still waiting for their money. I have one farmer that I spoke with. She has been trying to get financial aid through our government to get her farm to go green. So once she gets this funding, then she can turn her farm green with this flushing system. So it would get rid of the manure and everything with this flushing system. But it's like $200,000 to put in the system in her farm. And she's been waiting 2 years to get the funding for that. And so I've been a life and business coach for about 20 years, but in 2019, I launched a new business. I thought, oh, I'll just try something different, you try something new. And
The very definition of entrepreneurism, trying something.
yeah. And so unfortunately, when COVID hit, it shut my business down. So I lost a ton of money. I'd sunk so much money into this business and I lost it, all of it. And I wasn't able to recoup it from the PPP loans because I didn't qualify for the PPP loans because you were not allowed to have a tax loss the year of 2019 in order to recoup money. You know what I'm saying?
It was based on your
Yeah.
2019 income taxes.
Right. And I thought that is so unfair. And, I think that our government, a lot of times, I think they are well-intentioned, but I also think they're too far removed from how their policies actually land to the average hardworking American. And, that's a perfect example. You have all these huge corporations were given millions of dollars. And so you go to different places and they're all remodeling and, here I am, a single mom, a business owner, and it's like, hello, what about me?
And they were the
But-
ones that, at least
Oh.
here in Pennsylvania, it was the big mega stores that were allowed to stay open, while the small family businesses were forced to stay closed, again, to not overwhelm the hospital system. There was no other reason why the stay-at-home guidelines were put out the way they were. And remember, they originally came from the Trump regime. Stay home, shut down. That's it. You need to stay home and stop the spread of this disease because the hospital system can't take it because it's a for-profit system. They don't keep empty beds. Empty beds are unprofitable.
Mhm.
That was the whole impetus behind it. It's about bloody time we all remember that.
Mhm.
President
Oh.
Biden did not issue stay-at-home guidelines. That was Trump, and he was right to do it.
You
But
should
they
have done it
did it-
sooner.
But
He
they
would have
did
done
it
it sooner.
Yeah, but they
He
did
would
it
have
to
done it in
spare the hospital
January.
system. They did it to spare the hospital system, not to save lives. They did it to spare the hospital system.
Mhm.
That's the truth of it. It just is the truth of it. We have a question in the comment section from my dear friend Randall, who I'm sure will end up calling when I open the phone line, allow people to speak to you. But I will ask you his question anyway. Your position on the federal legalization of recreational marijuana use. What is your position on that?
I don't see a problem. I think the reason why they haven't legalized it, they haven't figured out how to make money off of it. I think it would be better to legalize it and have regulations to make it safe. I worry about
tax it.
Yeah. And there you go.
Working in Colorado very, very well.
So I worry about street drugs. They're always fillers and stuff are used for that. And I don't know how much is used in, pot, but, to make it safer for people and to, I think that's really important. So
Let's also remember that marijuana helps ease the symptoms and suffering.
Well,
Cancer, it cures
right, there's
pain,
a
it
lot
cures
of
glaucoma. We don't even know all of what
seizures.
marijuana can do because we've been disallowed from studying it since it's a class 1 drug. The FDA is not allowed to do study on it. Any studies that have been done on it have all been privately funded, privately sourced, and outside government. We don't even know everything that medical marijuana or marijuana in general. I guess I shouldn't limit it to just marijuana as a plant, as a drug. And it's not a drug in the traditional sense. It's a plant, for goodness sake. So is basil, so is parsley. So, and it would seem to me that the My Body, My Choice crowd who doesn't want to get a needle in their arm would favor marijuana legalization, because if I decide to smoke it, my body, my choice.
Yeah, but I've done a lot of study and there are a lot of benefits with it. I don't really have the statistics to look at, addiction issues, but from everything that I've ever learned or witnessed, people seem to get more calm. So, that might help things nowadays.
At this time in our country's history, a little more sedate sort of folks, a little more calmer, quieter folks wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But what else are I want you to tell us what are the other big issues to you?
Oh yeah.
That you are running on, that you have based your campaign on.
Well, helping the working class is very important to me. The middle class, working class, poverty, those are all really huge to me. Minorities and women and children. I think that we need to change our education system and include things like life skills. Again, it goes back to my background, but I think it's really important that our kids learn conflict resolution. They learn emotional intelligence. Then we don't have to worry about their feelings being hurt by CRT. They'll be able to deal with their feelings. Healthy communication, conflict resolution, financial literacy, I think is really important as well. There's a whole list of things that every person needs to really just survive and succeed in life, no matter where you come from. Because broken people can't teach their kids what they don't know. It's not rocket science. So again, that will help break these cycles of, the marginalized, impoverished neighborhoods and families. You quoted the Bible earlier. They say that the generational systemic financial poverty is an issue. Those are the things that education is power, right? And so I think it's important to equip people with the skills and tools that they need to live successfully. I think that we also, domestic violence is a big one. My aunt was murdered from domestic violence. Again, it goes back to teaching people how to deal with their emotions and anger and conflict resolution and healthy communication and, all these different things. Did
Mr. Jordan vote for the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act?
No.
So he's in favor. He is then by default in favor.
He votes against everything.
But I want to say this the way that certainly the right would interpret something, because we don't do enough of it, sadly. So he voted against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. Does that therefore mean that he is in favor of violence against women?
Yeah, really. So
I realize that it's a, when did you stop beating your wife kind of question, that they teach you in law school, but at some point someone has to be accountable for these votes. Does he not? So if if I'm standing on a stage with Mr. Jordan in a debate or a forum, which I'm sure he won't do with you or anybody else, because we don't really want to talk to actual citizens. We really only talk to the people who drop the checks in the basket on the way in our office door. But if I was standing on a stage with him and his lectern was to my right, of course, and I looked and said, so you're voting to not reauthorize that, can we interpret that vote then as an endorsement of violence against women? Because it would seem to me, yes.
Yeah.
They never have to answer those tough questions, do they?
No.
Because we don't ask them enough.
Well, see, that goes back to my point. We need to control the narrative. We need to be on the offensive rather than damn defensive all the time. It just drives me nuts. So, but we, Ohio is only one of 9 states that receives federal funding for domestic violence. One of 9. That's crazy. That's crazy. I know that Ohio is not just, one of only 9 states that has domestic
Yeah.
violence,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and
exactly. That's
it's
a very
horrible.
basic way to put it, but a very honest way to put it. There's certainly
Yeah.
not only 9 states in the country that have domestic violence problem. I'm pretty
Yes,
sure all
exactly.
50 and the territories do.
There was an article back in the 50s or something that said beating your wife was therapeutic. I mean, this is the stuff that we're dealing with. It's still that old mindset, and so
Well, they do
I
want to return us to the 50s.
I know. And so Ohio, we only get 1 million from the federal government, and that goes through the CDC. The CDC. So I want to propose that we have a whole violence umbrella that addresses domestic terrorism, mass shootings, school shootings, domestic violence, police brutality as well. You're talking about the healthcare system being a for-profit. Well, so was our prison system. I went to the Van Jones Empathy in Washington on Tuesday, and it's I think he said $91 billion industry.
Mhm.
$1 billion industry. That is just crazy.
And as
And
we
if
know, very disproportionately focused on the poor
the poor
and
and Black,
and
and
people
I
of
mean,
color.
our
Right.
prisons are full of Black men, and most of those men are from the foster care system. So again, we have to address these core issues of the interconnectedness of poverty and
It would seem to me,
disadvantaged people.
if you are a member of the self-described Family Values Party,
Oh,
which we know they are not, but again, we're the Family Values Party, bolstering the foster care system, encouraging the adoption system would be kind of a natural, no?
you would think.
Which is
Yeah.
what you're discussing, which I have to say is not, I don't hear a lot.
Yeah. No, you don't, because it sucks. I mean, there's so many sexual abuse that comes out of those too.
I think it's become one of those hidden, that might not be the right word for it. It's gotten pushed down the list. Let's put it that way. If we really want to, discourage abortions in this country, then the obvious thing, and all the data and science shows it, is that you empower women. You teach them about their own bodies and how they work. You provide and make available birth control. And if they choose, he said, choose to bring the baby to term, then you encourage, bolster, make more safe the adoption and foster care system. But it's funny. We only get twisted. We only get our boxers twisted in knots when it's about the woman being pregnant. Heaven forbid the male should get a vasectomy, which is, by the way, is safer, more effective, and cheaper.
Yeah.
These conundrums are these it's, I don't know. It's what you said before. We say it here every week, sadly, that everything that all the aspersions that they cast on the left are exactly what they're guilty of. It's, you can't demonize a single pregnant woman if she's not single and pregnant. So we better keep her that way. You can't demonize poor people for being poor if they're not poor. So we better keep them that way. Because 3 people, folks, please remember, 3 people, just 3 people in this country own as much wealth as the bottom 150 million.
Isn't that crazy?
3.
That's crazy.
3. The richest 600 people on the planet have as much wealth as the bottom 4 billion. It's unsustainable. When you want to get to the root of all of these so-called social issue, culture war, cancel culture issues, it's because a very tiny handful of ultra mega wealthy people don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to pay taxes. It's not any more complicated than that. I would lay a shiny wheat penny in front of you and bet you Jeff Bezos doesn't give a flying you know what about abortion or gay marriage or trans kids. He simply doesn't care. He wants to keep all of his money, and he thinks your money is his money. Tammy mentioned inflation before. You have heard me say on this program before, there is no inflation problem in this country. It doesn't even meet the textbook definition of inflation. You, the American people, the 99% got financial support so you could feed your kids and survive a global pandemic. And a small, tiny handful of the top 0.1%, they don't think you deserve that money. They think it's their money. They think it's their money, and they're going to take it back from you by whatever means necessary. If that means destroying government so they don't have to pay for it, fine. If it means raising prices on everything, fine. How can an industry subsidized by the federal government to the tune of $600 billion a year still have to charge you $4 and $5 for a gallon of gas? The answer is they don't. They are some of the most profitable corporations on earth. Why did all of the products, all of the consumer goods surrounding children get exponentially more expensive when the child tax credit started? Because they don't think that's your money. You don't deserve it. That's our money, and we're going to take it from you. That's not inflation. That's price gouging. That's oligarchy. And it's exactly why they need to be taxed. It's why we need to restore the principles of Glass-Steagall, of not paying CEOs in stock, of disallowing stock buybacks, taxing these, raising the corporate tax rate, raising the capital gains tax rate. Don't worry, folks, the companies aren't going anywhere because they're not here now. Why do we have supply chain issues? Because everything's made overseas. These companies are not going to pick up and leave the United States. They want to do business here. Mr. Jordan voted against the bill to make insulin the same price it is in Canada. $600 a month here, $2,000 a month here. I've heard even worse, $30 in Canada. It costs about $2 to $3 to make it. And all the Democrats in Congress tried to do was to make it the same as it is in Canada. Not even cheaper, just the same that the rest of the world is paying. And Mr. Jordan and his party, quote unquote, his corporation, voted against that. If you need insulin, you're a drag on society and you don't deserve to be part of it. That's what he's saying to you. That's what Republicans are saying to you. That is the bare bones of it. That Other Side of Information on Facebook is our home group page. Wherever you are, stay there. Enjoy the program. Of course, will live on there in its recorded form if you missed any of tonight's program so far. That Other Side of Information is the home group. Hot101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store, tell Alexa and the TuneIn Radio app, and TCP. We are opening our phone line. If you have missed any of tonight's program thus far, if you joined us late, missed anything, you can always go to our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. We are on Patreon, That Other Side of Information. Are you seeing a pattern here? TikTok. I actually remembered to do a TikTok promo for my own program. Oh my goodness, if it's snowing where you are, that would be why I finally remembered to do a TikTok promotional video. YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, Facebook, That Other Side of Information, and Twitter, at that Kennedy talk, no one ever tweets me. I don't even know why I have it sometimes. We do the program there and people tend to watch it from there, but I don't know. No one ever seems to communicate with me through TikTok. Let me go through some of the bigger issues. You hit on some really important ones, and I think some forgotten issues, which I have to say I'm very gratified to hear, like domestic violence, like violence, period, gun violence, period, the foster care system, the adoption system. I think these are, there's wonderful, or even changes in education. 100 years ago, back in the dark ages, when we still wrote on stone tablets to send messages to each other, when I was on a school board, it's one of the things I did on the curriculum committee. We started a life skills class in our high school. Who knew how to balance a checkbook? Who knew how to write a resume? Who knew how to do a job interview?
They need to start that in preschool. Seriously. So it's not this crash course in high school. You know what I mean? The reason why I'm so adamant about this is that I get 60-year-olds that are still trying to heal their childhood issues from 8 years old, but if we equip these kids with the skills so they can deal with it in real time, right when it happens, then it won't haunt them and create this avalanche of problems the rest of their life that they look for. Oh, okay, I'm not accepted here. I know exactly what that looks like. And it just feeds that negative story that, it just piles on year after year. And, I know that needs to be done, and no one talks about that.
I told you all that the phone line was open and forgot to give you the number, which was pretty silly. If you're on the hot101.net app and read the telemetry, our phone number is there. If you are watching us on Facebook, our phone number is there as well, but I will tell you anyway. It is 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. It's the same phone number every single week, 267-227-9189. Remember, we use a little free program by one of the giants called Google Voice. We can take one phone call at a time, but the line is open. We're happy to hear from you. We're happy to ask your questions or give your comments to Tamie. Let me talk about some of the big quickies. Maybe we can even just rattle them off, but if you would like to expound on them, go ahead. Medicare for all. Are you a Medicare for all person?
Okay. Healthcare is a huge issue for me. My mom has stage 4 cancer. One of her medications is $5,000 a month. And, it's not rocket science that, is that a problem?
No, go ahead. I'm trying to answer. We're just getting all sorts of chimes. I don't know why I'm getting multiple chimes. I'm being chimed right out of my own program. Randall, hang on 1 second. Go ahead, Tamie. Please finish. I'm sorry.
So, we have to have, I think the best thing for our healthcare system is to have just one healthcare system. And I'm all about
a national health system like the UK.
Yes, because this is why,
cow.
as long as we have.
You are history. We just made history. You are the first one to agree with me.
Well, as long as we have it separate, then that gives doctors the right to resist treating different people. And that's just not right. And so the best avenue is to have one. Are we going to get there? I don't think, unfortunately, this is something I'm pessimistic about.
Yeah, I don't think
we're going to get there. There's a huge education piece that needs to take place. And that is where we have to start. We have to educate the public to the benefits of it, because the Republicans are, again, controlling the narrative and demonizing it, and especially to the people that need it the most. So, what?
Also, I now see what happens.
Oh, I can't mute it.
How is it like that?
What?
So,
Randall, we're all getting to listen to your conversation. Homegrown program. He's one of our loyals.
That's awesome. Damn,
We're all getting to listen to the family conversation, Randall.
But until we have to educate the public before we can get there. We're not going to get there by just saying we have to do this. We have to educate them so then they are like screaming for it, and we are not there yet. So There's my answer. So, you know, there's some things that I think that we can go from 0 to 100 with, you know, but there's a lot of things we have to take the RGB approach. We have to just inch our way and make what progress we can. I'm writing my own police reform bill. They're not going to pass that George Floyd bill. They're asking for too much. But I have done the research. I've made friends, build relationships with people whose family members were killed by police. So, and I went through the Citizens Police Academy in Delaware, in my hometown. And so I've learned a lot about how police are trained and where their changes need to take place. And there are certain things that we can do that could make a huge difference that we're not doing. They need to track the civilian complaints about the cops. They need to track the internal write-ups. They need to be trained better. They need to, so what happens is if they were to kill someone or get in trouble, all they have to do is quit that department and go work at this department over here. That police chief is not allowed to do a background check on that cop. And what job in America does someone not do a background check on you? I mean, that's just simple common sense. My whole campaign is about common sense approach solutions, period. So anyway.
Randall, welcome to the program, my friend. Ask your question. Floor is yours.
Hi, Randall.
Hi, Tamie. You've been excellent in all your answers, and I am fully 100% for Medicare for all, for national health care system. Unfortunately, I'm on Medicare since I'll be almost 70 here this year.
Yeah.
But the last 5 years that I had to provide my own insurance between 60 and 65.
Because it doesn't cover everything, does it?
Before I had a bronze plan. It was $2,500 a month plus the deductibles.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it takes a hell of a
that.
chunk. It takes a hell of a chunk out of your Social Security to do that too.
It took every cent of my Social Security to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you are taxed on your Social Security, are you not, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Thank Mr. Reagan.
Thanks, Mr. Reagan. Yes, sir.
What's your question for Tamie?
My question to Tamie is, how are you funding your campaign? Number one.
Donations. If you're asking me, I have not gotten any PAC money. So yes, donations. So if people like you, please donate. I need all the money I can get right now. I need to get some yard signs in the yard. I have my primary coming up May 3rd, which is the day after my birthday. So I'm hoping that I win the primary and have a huge birthday party. So
Nice.
we'll see.
It's funny how much, not haha funny, but it is interesting how much folks, Randall's been a Democrat in his entire life. He's been an activist. He's been involved in the party and so on. So he's a little more plugged in, than the, if I can say this gently, than the quote unquote common person on the street. But it is interesting. His question raises an issue in and of itself, Tamie, is that, if we were to take Randall as the kind of man on the street kind of person, even they now pay attention to where their elected officials and their prospective elected officials are getting their money. His question kind of just gets shot out there, but it is actually a thing now. People care about where your money's coming from. They want to know who owns you, if anyone owns you at all, and who you're beholden to. So it's actually quite a very important question. Would you agree with that?
Okay, I have a lot to say about this. I will take money. I will take money from who wants to donate. Will they own me? Never, ever, ever. But this is how I look at it. I cannot make change until I get into office, and it takes money to get there. And unfortunately, not everyone donates. And even if it's $5, $10, not everyone is doing that. And I have over 6,000 followers on Twitter. I barely get any money from any of my followers on Twitter. If just all of them would donate $5, good Lord, that could really make a huge difference in my campaign, but they don't do it.
And no one knows how to stretch a dollar like a political candidate. I'll tell you what.
I mean,
Nobody knows how to
I'm
do more with
stretching it.
$5. Yeah.
Thank God I am well versed with online marketing, and I've had my own business, so I know how to navigate things. And I'm using, all my resources for getting my name and my message out there. But with that said, I haven't had anyone try to give me, $5,000-$10,000, unfortunately. So, it is what it is. So I just, part of me, I don't know, I'm naive, but I would just love to just win on like $5,000 or $4,000. I just think that would be freaking hilarious. So
Would send quite a statement too, actually, to be honest.
yeah. I'm putting in the work. I am doing a lot of community outreach and things. I don't know if you're aware, but I've done a lot.
And that's the party building that happens too. Party benefits from all that as well.
Yeah,
What else you got?
They sure do, but I'm not getting any help from them. But that's okay.
No, of course not. That would make sense. What else you got, Randall?
I just want to say, Tammy, you've covered so many issues. You hit all my right buttons on issues tonight.
Not your right buttons, your correct buttons.
Okay, cool.
You only have left buttons, Randall.
No, I have left buttons. Correct. But the two biggest contributors that buy Congress are the oil and gas industry and coal, and the pharmaceutical industry.
I have to disagree. We also have the guns and healthcare, so I'd say the big four.
all of them are thrown in there together, and that's why we can't get anything done. And, until we get more progressives elected and get a majority of progressives in the House and the Senate, we're not going to be able to do anything that we should be doing for the common person here in America. And anyway, that's all I have to say.
Well, I do agree with that.
So maybe somebody else will call in.
Before you go, my friend, remember 2 weeks from tonight is our 3rd anniversary, entering our 4th year. Every person, every single guest who's ever been on the program is welcome to rejoin us, to stop by and say hi. So you better do the same thing. I will speak to you soon. All right, sir?
Yes, you got it. Have a good night, Tammy. Thank you again.
Thank you. I do agree with that. That the problem is we have to make our voices louder. We have to educate the public and get rid of the scare tactics that the Republicans do, because we're not going to make that progress as long as they're controlling the narrative and making people scared of progress. So again, it goes back to the education piece and being that loudest voice. I don't know if you guys watched it, but did you see The Loudest Voice? It was so good. It was a series with Russell Crowe and Seth MacFarlane and a few other people, but it was about Roger Ailes and Fox News and how they started it.
Yes.
It's really awesome. I mean, it's really eye-opening.
Does it go back as far as the original idea for Fox News was when Roger Ailes was he was a production assistant.
Yes.
On the Mike Douglas show, I want to say, where Nixon was appearing. And Nixon had no idea what he was doing on this afternoon talk show. And his campaign staff said, "You're talking to housewives because they vote too." Mm-hmm. And Ailes actually burst, as the story goes, Ailes burst into the green room and said, "You want to know why you lost? I'll tell you. In 60, I'll tell you why you lost." And his staff was around him, you know, who's this snot-nosed kid coming in here telling us how to do these things? But Nixon took him in, put him in charge of media for the campaign in 68, and he won. His original idea for Fox News, he took to Nixon and said, we need to start a Republican television network, and we're going to call it GOP TV.
Mhm.
And we are going to push out our narrative at all cost. And even Nixon said that's a bridge too far. We can't lie to the American people.
Mm.
We can tell them our point of view. We can give them facts and the data to back it up, but we're not going to lie to them. And he shot the idea down. And then along came Rupert Murdoch, who is now ruined three different countries, who's ruined 3 countries on 3 continents. He's destroyed Australia. He was leading figure in making Brexit happen in the UK, and now he's here. Canada won't allow Fox News.
Thank
Going
God
back
for
to
that,
where we
right?
started the very program, Canada won't allow it. There is no Fox News in Canada. Whatever they're getting is bleed over from the United States, but they won't allow them to establish it there. He was prevented for the longest time from actually taking over Sky. Sky was trying to buy another outlet in the UK, and they stopped that. The EU has sanctioned him. A lot of these countries are just because they're not ruled, because not every single last decision is made based on profit.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
society, I always wonder how these supposed captains of industry, these smart businessmen,
Mhm.
how do they expect to continue to grow their businesses while all the rest of us are broke?
Yeah, I
when
know.
we're out, you know, trying to feed ourselves out of
Well,
rubbish bins and so on. How do you sell a car? How do you sell gasoline? How does Amazon sell any of the millions of products that it sells if we're all so broke and destitute that we can't afford any of it? But then again, if you already have a couple $100 billion, maybe it doesn't matter anymore. So you have nothing else to do with yourself, so you make a phallic shaped rocket and shoot yourself in space for fun. I mean, maybe that's it.
but speaking of inflation, you know, right before we got that hike, they were saying how, oh, Americans are spending too much money, and you know that's causing the supply chain issue. So, you know, we're gonna have inflation soon. And sure enough, buddy, it was only like a week or 2 later, we had that 7% hike. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, that's crazy.
If you did, if 90 something percent of all the consumer goods in the country weren't made in one location, you wouldn't have a supply chain issue.
Yeah. But the problem is that
That
we
goes
have
back to
corporations,
Alexander Hamilton.
they don't want to pay Americans. That's why they build everything over there.
Isn't it ironic that Alexander Hamilton's 13 principles for an industrial society has now been positively displayed in multiple countries? It built the American industrial base. It has since built the Korean, Japanese, German, and Chinese industrial bases. I say very often, if not every single time on this program, the answers to our modern problems are in our own history. If we returned to Hamilton's 13 principles, we could rebuild an industrial society here in this country. We should be building the solar panels. We should be building the electric cars and the electric infrastructure. We should be building the flood mitigation and the wind turbines and the new energy, highly energy efficient homes, and the solar charging roadways like they have in China. By the way, we can drive an electric car on the road as it charges, as it drives. We should be doing the bullet trains that could take us from New York to Florida in a matter of hours. We should be doing these things. We're the United States of America. For God's sakes, we put a man on the moon. When did we become the nation of can't? The truth is we did not become the nation of can't. The rich decided we would become the nation of can't because they don't want to pay for any of it. It all comes back to that, folks. They don't want to
It does.
pay. They don't want to pay to be a part of this society, but they want to rule it. Isn't it interesting that a man like Mr. Jordan, who doesn't even think that this government should continue to function in its current form, continues to run to be a part of it? If that doesn't tell you that he's making gobs and gobs of money, I don't know what does.
Right.
Tell me about the Green New Deal. Do you have an opinion on it?
I was so thankful that he started saying, when I hear Green New Deal, I hear new jobs. And I'm like, finally, that is something that the average American can relate to. I'm sorry, but if people are suffering, if they are, starving and they're struggling to pay their bills, they don't give a crap about what's happening 20 years from now. So I was so thankful. I'm like, you people need to speak in language that the average American can understand. New jobs, they understand. So I was so thankful. I about jumped out of my seat when he said, like, finally, someone who gets it. If you want to sell the Green New Deal to people, then you need to let them know how it affects their life today. You know what I mean?
It seems to me that the genius behind the Green New Deal is not even the green part. It's the New Deal part.
Mhm.
It's the New Deal that built the American industrial, or that really completed the American industrial dominance. We were the largest industrial country on the face of the earth. We had the largest middle class. We don't have either of those things anymore. Remember, folks, when Reagan came to power in 1980, January 20th of 1981, we were the largest importer. We, the United States, we're the largest importer of raw materials and the largest exporter of finished goods. 8 years later, that completely flipped. We were the largest importer of finished goods and the largest exporter of raw materials. When Reagan came to power, we were the largest creditor nation on earth. We loaned more money out to other nations, other corporations, than any other any other country on earth. In just 8 years, we became a debtor nation. We owed more money. We used to have the largest middle class in this country on earth, both in sheer straight number and per capita. We no longer have either. For the first time since the Republican Great Depression of the 1930s, less than 50% of the population self-identifies as middle class. Let me say that again, self-identify. That means they don't even consider themselves middle class any longer. And we know that people's perception in such things usually lags behind the actual numbers. Are you a middle class, ma'am, sir? Yeah, of course we are. We have a house and a car and 2.4 kids and a dog and a cat. Most folks now, less than 50% of the population of this country self-identifies as middle class. The Reagan Revolution continues, and it continues to strip this country of everything that it was. But it can be stopped. For goodness sake, it can be stopped. People like Tamie are running to try to stop it. And again, what she said, very, very plain, simple, easy to understand language, common sense answers. You don't tax incentivize people, to companies and corporations, to move the jobs out of the country, which is what we currently do. You change the law to incentivize them to move the jobs into the country. You don't cut the taxes on the people who have all the money. You cut them on the people who have nothing, so they can lift themselves up. You don't fight and get rid of the minimum wage. You increase it. You don't deny more and more health care. You expand it. You don't privatize Social Security, you codify it by eliminating the cap, and you save it. The New Deal built the middle class of this country along with the union movement. You had to be excited this week to see that the Amazon warehouse in New York, and along with the Starbucks store in Buffalo, I think I have that right, voted to unionize. That must have been important to you. You must have felt good to see that news.
Yes, I think it's really great. There's factories here in my district that are not unionized. And, these companies, they hire people to teach people or encourage them not to unionize. I mean, it is just crazy. So again, it goes back to the mis and disinformation. There's just so much that we need to get a hold of in terms of educating the public as to what things really truly are, and the history behind it. We talked about corporations. It's not the days now where the CEO of the company takes a income break to help their workers. Those days are long gone.
And that's what a high top marginal tax rate did.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to pay myself $100 million when I'm paying 91%, 94%, even 74% on it. I might as well take that money and turn it back into the company, because at least then I can write it off.
Yeah. And I mean, this goes back to, so I created this child wellness program. I talked to you about my employee wellness program that I pitched to Nationwide Insurance. But employee wellness, they talk about employee engagement. And that goes especially in like these corporations. If people are tired, if they're stressed out, if they are having relationship issues, I deal with people all the time with their love life, and people going through heartbreak or divorce or death. It's devastating, so all of these distractions go with employee engagement. And so, to me, helping your employees live better, that's only going to help the productivity of your company and help increase your everything, so it's just looking at the world a little bit differently, and not being so narrow and selfish minded, and being more about we than just I. And again, it just goes back to educating people as to the benefits of those things. So those are things. There are certain things with our government that, yes, the state should have control over those certain things for that state. But some things, our government should function like a really good, successful company. And companies that are successful, they have streamlined processes for a reason, because it works. And things like our police, things like our school system, those are things that should be from the top down. We should have the best. This is the example. This is the standard. This is the protocol that everyone needs to follow, so we can have, success throughout, to really elevate our country to, be better for us Americans, and to make us more competitive and even stronger, worldwide. So
Even the Biden administration just proposed a $782 billion defense budget, yet another increase in defense spending. Senator Sanders tells us that they
just sent 1.5 billion to Ukraine, didn't they?
Out of 782 billion, you still have 780.5 billion left. I think they can spare it. But Senator Sanders tells us that if you really include the secondary and ancillary spending around DOD, it's more in the neighborhood of $1.4 trillion.
Well, I'll tell you where they need to put that money is the bases. I lived on base. It's like living in the projects. It's horrible. And to have our military to send these kids, the 18-year-olds, whatever, to go and die for their country, but then they live in a crap hole. I mean, that's wrong. And
Mr.
that's
Jordan
something that a lot
supported-
of people are not aware of. What?
Mr. Jordan supported stripping money from rehabbing housing at military bases all across the country so it could be spent on a border wall that never got built. I have to wonder where all that money went because none of that wall ever got built. Do you support that level of, having been in a military family or part of a military family, do you support that level of defense spending? Is it enough? Is it too little? Is it too much?
No, it's not enough. No, they need to redo all of these homes. These homes that I lived in, and this was, 20 years ago. I'm old. But they look like, something from the 40s and 50s, but they're concrete. So they last, but it's just, ugh. It's terrible. It's so terrible. So
about 50% of the defense budget is privatized. Is the answer not spending more money, but simply taking it back out of private hands and allowing soldiers to do the jobs that they can do? Private companies now provide food. They set up tents. They do laundry. Soldiers used to do all that stuff. They were perfectly capable of building their own tent camps and cooking and feeding themselves and clothing themselves and washing themselves and all that fun stuff. While I suppose I could understand a bit of the logic behind, we'll take care of all that, you do the fighting. I'm sure, I can almost see a tiny bit of logic in that, but I also think it's a very, bottom line goal to privatize all of it and make these things, making war profitable. So if you don't think that it's enough money that we already spend nearly $800 billion in the Defense Department, is it that we don't spend enough, or is it that we spend it poorly?
Spend it poorly. That's my point.
And too damn much of it is privatized, by the way.
It is, yes.
Half that
there's a
budget
lot
is
of
spent on
things
troops.
with our government that the money is spent poorly. I've worked with different companies. They get these government contracts. They all triple their price because they're dealing with the government. I'm telling you, they need to get a good mom in there to be like, oh, no, we're not paying that. We're the budget shoppers. But the problem is that, we have these legislators that have associations with these companies, so they pay these big fees. I mean, that's how we ended up in the other war, So we have to, it's not just big business, but to stop all of the corruption and get back to really caring for people. I don't know.
There's
a
include,
lot that needs to be done for that.
does that include allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices?
Oh, they absolutely should. And they've got commercials. I have commercials of people, they talk about, oh, you don't want them competing for lower prices. It's like, how could anyone watch that?
Oh,
that's in their best interest. I don't know. I just find it insane.
Some of the commercials that go on during Morning Joe. Yeah, because they know legislators are watching, by the way. That's why you see some of these commercials during something like Morning Joe and you're thinking, is that really for me? It's not. It's to reach the legislators that are in, the Capitol gym, at 6 a.m. getting in a free workout in their free gym with their, outstanding healthcare that none of the rest of us have access to. They're trying to reach them. It's not meant for you and me. It's like a BDO commercial. We're not, as individuals, we're not hiring BDO to do our taxes. These are for Fortune 500 companies, and they know that folks like that are watching Morning Joe, whether we like to think that they are or not, they are. And these things are to reach people like that. It's almost the kind of thing that makes you kind of think this isn't really our country anymore, that really there's only a couple hundred people that just control and run everything, which makes it sound very conspiratorial. And that's really not my intention by saying that. But when you're paying tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy airtime on a morning news program so that you can reach a couple hundred federal legislators,
Well,
it does make
let's
you
talk
think that
about
you're
campaign
just not.
finance.
Tell me about
He voted
campaign
against
finance.
that too.
Well, of
So, I
course,
mean,
because
you
he's
know,
benefiting from it.
You have him who's made 8 million, and I'm still working towards my first million.
What would you do? Public financing of campaigns? Would you severely limit the high end contributions? Would you are you in support of the law that and I'm forgetting the name of the legislation at the
They
moment
should cap the amount.
that would force
should-
501c3s and 4s to report whom they're giving money to? Is that
That's
what
already
would you do?
the
What would you
FEC.
support?
You already have to report all that. So
You don't have to report dark money and third party spending. No, you do not.
when you file your report, you have to show where your money is coming from and where it's spent. That's part
If a
of
dark
the-
money group spends money on your behalf with zero coordination,
Oh, on your behalf. Okay,
with
that's different.
zero wink, 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 zero coordination with your campaign, then no, you don't
Yeah.
have to. And plus,
That's
the
separate,
501c4 itself does not have to report where its money comes from.
Yeah, that's different. I thought you were talking about donations.
But there
and
is a
things. You have to
campaign-
report that.
There was Democratic legislation to force the 501c4 itself to report where its money's coming from.
Mhm.
And I freely admit that I'm blanking on the name of the legislation at the moment, but it's would force the actual 501c4 to say this is where our money's coming from. Remember, folks, the Koch network spends more money and has more permanent employees than both parties put together. They are the third party in this country. For all of you progressives out there that want to burn the Democratic Party down to the ground, there are three parties in this country. And the Kochs run the biggest one of them. They just happen to have used that organization to purchase the Republican Party. There kind of really already is three parties in this country. There's formal Republicans, there's the Kochs that own them, and there's Democrats. At least as far as I see it. I'm happy to have anybody argue with me. They're not, but you can. And usually nobody argues with me on that point.
Well, you have Trump Republicans, which is the Republican Party, and then regular, normal, traditional Republicans are now independents.
Probably.
So
I don't think Mr. Portman's not getting out right at the right time because I think he tasted those waters and they don't taste very good.
Yeah. It's some.
How about
hopefully
talk
some
to me
good things
about
left.
gun violence and the Second
Yeah.
Amendment as a domestic
Yeah.
violence.
Mhm.
I always catch myself because I was going to say it's domestic violence advocate, which sounds so stupid, almost like
I know.
But I mean,
did the
isn't-
same
you
thing.
understand? Yeah, I know it doesn't come off the town. It doesn't sound right. It's the wrong way to put it. As someone who works with victims of domestic violence
Survivors.
and survivors, talk to me
Yeah,
about
state survivors. Yeah.
the gun violence problem in this country. We have a third, I believe it's a third of all the privately owned firearms on the planet are in the United States. We have more guns than people. Tell me about weapons safety, which is how I refer to it. I don't say gun safety, it's weapons safety. Do you support an assault weapons ban? How deep into the Second Amendment are you? Handguns for people on the no-fly list, handguns for folks who have for domestic abusers. Mr. Jordan voted against that, by the way. Tell me about where is Tamie Wilson around the entire issue of guns, gun violence, gun ownership, and so on?
Well, I'm going to say something I'm sure you've never heard before. I think when you purchase a gun, you should have to take a psych eval. Have you
Well,
ever heard that?
I believe in private insurance. I think guns should be treated like cars. You have to have
I do
insurance
too.
to have a car. Why would you not have insurance Republicans love to talk about free market solutions to, well, what's a bigger free market solution than insurance? I go to buy a gun. I go to, you mentioned Nationwide insurance before. I think it was Nationwide that you talked to, that you said before. I go to Nationwide. I want a personal liability policy because I bought a gun, and they go through your history and go, absolutely not. No. The same way as if you went for an auto policy, well, you've had 20 accidents, so no, we're not going to insure you. There's your free market solution.
Yeah. And a title, just like with a car.
Yep. A test, a title, trace ownership, and insurance. Is there anything in those ideas that's anti-Second Amendment?
No, I'm all about the Second Amendment. I come from a family of hunters, and I grew up shooting guns. I love to shoot guns. They're fun at targets, paper targets or bottles. You watch them explode. But no, I'm all for guns and common sense laws. And it's about keeping the guns out of people that shouldn't have them. And excuse me for not being PC, but keeping them out of crazy people's hands. That was a problem. And my uncle, he was one of them. He killed my aunt, but he was crazy. He shouldn't have had the ability to do what he did. And there's so much that can be done that we're not doing. And until it affects these people close, it's not going to matter to them. And, John McCain is a good one. Until he got cancer, thank God. I mean, it sounds so terrible to say that, but, until it affected him personally, he wasn't about the Affordable Care Act, So it's just sad that it has to hit people close to home. But I heard this quote the other day, and it was so good. And it said, people closest to the pain should be closest to the power. And I love that. And that is so true.
Well, you're living with it in your state. Senator Portman.
Oh, they just took away the permit carry. What on earth?
Well, he was also anti same-sex marriage until his son came out. Then he changed his tune quite quickly. Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, it's a shame that has to happen to it. It's a shame that somebody has to be in pain to realize, again, as you've said, these common sense ideals and ideals, but it does seem to be, until it affects me, it's not.
It doesn't matter.
It seems to me that's very anathema of the actual definition of society, of community, of neighborhood. That, if your neighbor's house burns, yours is in trouble.
Yeah.
You don't sit back, watch the house.
Oh, honey. Burn. Oh, hold on. I got to tell you this story. So on the news, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, there's this guy running down the freeway, shooting at the cops. I mean, it looked like the wild, wild west. It was absolutely insane. And at first you're like, oh my God, what the heck is going on with that guy? But, I stopped myself from judgment, and I said, okay, what has happened in this guy's life to get him to the point that he's doing this now, and come to find out, I believe, do not quote me, but I believe he was from the foster care system. He'd been in the system for years. He had been in and out of jail, I think. So there is a whole list of issues. We as a society have failed this guy to not help him, because again, it goes back to the family unit, right? So if you have broken parents, they can't teach their kids what they don't know. And that's when their problem becomes your problem. And so if you want to ignore them and not help them, here this guy is running down the freeway, having a shootout with the cops. I mean, I've never seen it. It was so crazy. But it was like the wild, wild west. I'm not kidding. He was stopping and shooting. Oh my God, it was so crazy. But, again, that's where their problem becomes your problem, because then those bullets were hitting cars that were driving by. So yes, we have to be, and I don't know, it's a society thing. It could be a cell phone, computer thing, but we've really gotten away from caring about each other and the
Connecting.
village, it takes a village to raise a child, and
Connecting,
those are
actually
the things
connect.
that we have to get back to. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, this is a bit of I suppose, a bit of an ethereal type question, but I'm going to let you go at 7:30 because I'm going to end the program somewhere around 8. And I said I was going to get into that stuff in the beginning, once again, toward the end. How much, when we talk about that, it's a shame that folks on the right only seem to understand a problem when it affects them.
Yeah.
That's sad, unfortunately. We should have more empathy than that. But perhaps in that realm of discussion, how does being a mom, how does seeing a son, you have a son, but if you had a daughter, it wouldn't matter. I don't think it would matter. Growing up in this time, your son is 17. So 17, well, he would have been born after, but he has seen a nation that has been nearly ceaselessly at an armed conflict. 800 military bases in 184 different countries, 800 billion of defense spending, 600 billion in fossil fuel subsidies, 3 people owning the wealth of the bottom 100. I think I had that wrong earlier. I think it's more on the lines of 165 to 200 million people. 600 people owning the wealth of the bottom 2/3 of the planet. A planet that is crying out with environmental damage. I mean, how does your son, maybe on those quiet moments when he doesn't even know you're looking at him, but you might be making breakfast and you just kind of see him there, either listening to music or studying or whatever it might be, how does he inform your politics, your beliefs, how you see issues? How does he inform that for you?
Well, again, it goes, I love kids. I always have. When I was, I don't know, 7 or 8, my parents, they called me the child advocate. So I am a mom. I love being a mom. I wish I had more kids. When Anthony was little, he goes, I'm going to have 100 kids. And I'm like, oh, good luck finding a wife to have 100 kids. But, this is where I am really passionate about how people are educated, not just with school books, but with life skills. That I'm just so passionate about that. I really feel that can solve a lot of our problems. It can help reduce violence. It can help reduce racism. It can help reduce hate. Help reduce the school shootings. I see these kids, and we've got social media, which really just takes their stress level to a whole different level. And the pressure of my kid is an athlete, and he does not get that from me. I suck at all sports. I'm a good cheerleader, though. I have a big mouth, but he trains constantly every single day. I mean, he'll get up at 5 a.m., go to the gym and train, come back, and then go to school. And then he trains after school. And then he plays sports in school, and then he plays outside of school. So he's an athlete. He's a very gifted athlete at that. And so that takes him to a different stress level as well. Thankfully, he's very responsible, and I'm just so lucky. He's very smart. He does well in school, and he's a kind person. I'm just so lucky. Knock on wood.
I usually go here. I go for the hardest. I go for the hardest
so.
wood I can find, which is usually right here. Thick.
Yeah. They had a school shooting. Well, it wasn't a school shooter, but there was a shooter in the area. So his school was on lockdown. Scared the crap out of me. So there's a lot of things that I worry about with everything that's going on. So
how does he feel about your candidacy?
Oh, he doesn't.
Not paying attention?
No, he's like, that's your thing. He doesn't really get too involved with it, but he hears me talking to people. He goes to some of my events that I have, and he hears the stories. You know, we just had Ohio's Day of Empathy, which we kind of changed it a little bit, but we made it about focusing on the challenges that minorities and impoverished people face in terms of crime and violence, domestic violence, hunger, and all the things, right? And he heard stories of police brutality. I had one woman, I had two people actually were speakers, and one lady, her husband, he was killed by police from a squatter call. So it was a fake 911 call. Their home was surrounded by police officers. Like they had like 20 cops around their house, and they ended up killing this woman's husband. Another woman, her son was at a hotel and there was a squat call, and the police came and they ended up killing him and shot his face off. I mean, it is just terrible, but and he hears these stories, so he knows that there's injustice that goes on, and thankfully he cares and wants to hopefully do something about that when he gets older. But it's good for him to hear the other side of stories, because there's so many false narratives and dis and misinformation out there. I had a good friend of mine, unfortunately she was a Trump supporter too, and she's like, George Floyd wasn't killed by that cop. And I was like, what? But she believes that he was an actor and that it never happened. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how can you believe that? But there's a lot of people that believe that. I mean, it just blows me away. And then there's other people that, well, he deserved it. And it's like, no, he did not. We don't just shoot people in the street in America. We don't do that,
How would you, in an atmosphere in this country where there is a measurably significant part of our own population, our friends and family and neighbors, you mentioned them earlier, who would and I'm not overstating it. I don't think I'm overstating it. I don't think it's hyperbole. Who would literally just as soon shoot you dead because you're a member of the Democratic Party as anything else. How have you been received in your campaigning? How has it been? Are you being harassed? Are you being threatened? Or are you finding hope that folks who have voted Republican for years and years are stopping and listening to you? What are you finding? What has been your experience so far out in the trail?
Yeah. Okay. This is how I this is the approach that I've taken with my campaign. At my heart, I would say I'm progressive, but I'm also realistic. So I'm very moderate in my politics.
The two P's. Progressive, but pragmatic.
Yes. And I believe that I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to get elected if I'm talking like a lefty liberal. That's not going to happen. So, yes, I have family members who are Trump supporters, but this is the way that I've gotten people know me. They know me, they like me, and they trust me. And, even hardcore Trump supporters, they have told me that they will vote for me. I just have to make it through the primary first. So that's my first hurdle that I have to get through. I don't know how that's going to pan out. I'm hoping the district has traditionally nominated a woman. So I'm hoping that still rings true, even though we've had redistricting. Thankfully, a lot of my county has been included in that, but then they split my county in half. And so most of the people that I grew up with that I know are in the part that they took out. And I'm like, oh. So I don't know. I do not know what's going to happen. I'm hoping for the best. I'm not holding my breath because, I think they're looking at it like, well, they would probably vote for the white guy. So, But
Not,
if you want to talk policy, if you want to talk about community engagement and someone who's got some movement going on with issues, that's me. So, I'll go head to head all day on that. We'll see what
well, in our
happens.
final couple minutes, I like to do this with every guest that is kind enough to visit us. And that is following. I want to open the floor to you just and step back, step out of the way and give you the floor. Is there anything that were there any answers to any issues, topics, questions that you don't think you got to fully answer? Were there anything that we did not cover that you wanted to make sure that you mentioned? And of course, please tell everybody how to contact you, follow you, donate, what do you have coming up? All of that wrapped up. I open the floor to you. It's all yours.
I think it's really important that, I am writing in the process of writing a couple bills. I mentioned the police reform, also immigration, but I am an executive committee member in the Delaware Democratic Party. I volunteer with different organizations. I'm all about women's rights, obviously. I guess I shouldn't say obviously, but helping to end human trafficking is another big one that's on my list. And working and to help ending racism. Again, I think it's an educational piece, but I want to reduce all violence. I want to bring jobs to Ohio, so I have connections that I'm using to do that. Reduce taxes and increase wages. Address, I think that our country is in a mental health crisis. We just got through COVID, violence and the domestic terrorism and everything is on the rise. I really feel that those are just signs of us being in a mental health crisis. So we really need to address that core issue. Bringing child wellness programs, with the life skills approach that I was speaking about earlier is a really big one for me that I think we need to do. I really want to empower women and minorities with programs and funding for families and small business, and also, of course, help the farmers as well. But I have a lot of things that I actually want to do to help our country. It's not just my district, not just my state, but help our country in general. I have not ever heard of someone that is really strong on the mental health piece in our country. And that is something that I'm really passionate about. I think that we really need to, and I was so glad to hear Joe Biden, and of course I copy him on a lot of my tweets and stuff, and I'm always screaming mental health, but I was glad to see that he had that on his 4-point plan. So, but to follow me, you can follow me at Tamie, that's TAMIE _Wilson_ on Twitter. I'm on Twitter, Facebook. It's Tamie for Congress on Facebook. I am on Instagram, but that tends to be a little bit more on the personal side, probably. Please donate. You can go to my website. It's TamieWilson.com. I would appreciate your donations. Volunteers, if you want to help me make calls and reach people in my district, that helps. Helping to share my tweets and my posts on Facebook and Twitter, all of that action helps to bring more attention to my message, my campaign, and to me. So thank you so much for having me on. It was so great.
Well,
I'm glad
before
that we finally
you go,
were able to figure it out.
I have bad news for you. You are part of our family now.
Oh, yay.
And that means that it is my sincere hope that this will not be the only time that we hear from you. The keys to the castle are open, or they are yours. You know how to get here. You know how to find us. You're part of the group, actually. I think you're on our group page. So you will see the articles and things that we post. But I sincerely hope this is not the only time that you come and see us. This show is open to you. If you have something extremely important that you need to get out there into the ether, then you let me know and you come back here. And they don't have to be 2.5 hour plus visits. They can just be hey, 5-10 minutes of like, folks, you need to know about this thing. You have to know about this piece of legislation. It's that important. And Ohio and Pennsylvania are extremely similar. There are cities, there are rural, there is suburban, there is gutted former hulks of industrial giants, there is gentrification, there is electric car charging stations. I mean, Ohio and Pennsylvania are very, very similar. And but it's a very long-winded way of saying that you are always welcome here. You are part of the Kennedy Effect family now. And please don't let this be the only time you come and visit us. The door's open to you. If there's something that my audience needs to know and you need to tell them, then you come back here and you talk to us and see us again.
Yay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very, very much for being here, and especially for taking so much time. I know Sundays, not much in this country is traditional anymore, but Sundays are still sort of quiet nights and family nights. So I'm very grateful for you taking this amount of time to be with us and to talk to me, my audience, and even take a live phone call and take some live spontaneous questions. I'm very grateful to you. I beg you to please stay safe out on the campaign trail. We are rooting for you. My group and my Facebook group, my friends, my everything that's connected to this program, we'll keep an eye, we'll keep posting for you, and we wish nothing but the best for you, but please stay safe out in the trail. Come back and see us.
Oh, thank you so much. That just means so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well,
I really do.
It's not always the civil place it used to be, the campaign trail. So I beg you to stay safe out there.
I've been so lucky. I've only had a couple trolls, but for the most part, people have left me alone. So I'm so glad.
I hope it stays that way. Well, thank you for being here. Please go have dinner with your son. And
yeah, he's sick. He's in bed, so I'm gonna have to wake him up.
Well, please stay safe
you.
and please visit us again.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Have a great night. That is Tamie Wilson, Democratic candidate for the United States House of Representatives from the 4th District of the great state of Ohio. Thank you.
Heartland.
The heartland, indeed.
Thanks. Bye.
We got about 20 more minutes, folks, before we wrap up. We will wrap up at 8 o'clock. I told you I would get back into some of the stuff that has kept us from you. And not because I think you are, just dying to hear about my life, but because I think what's happening to me and what has happened here in our family is the kind of same things that happened to you and your family. And that's why I wanted to get back into them again. Phone line remains open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. The phone line remains open. We will be here till 8. We're going to try to wrap up on time tonight, believe it or not. Believe it or not, we will try to wrap up on time. Just again, please remember that we will not be with you next week. Next Sunday is Easter Sunday, the Christian high holy days around the globe. We will not be with you next week. We hope you have a peaceful, enjoyable, kind, happy Easter. If you are a person of faith and Easter takes you to church and a solemn, well, not really solemn, but a celebratory kind of dinner, for he has risen, then I wish you that. If you are not the deeply religious type and you just have a fun egg hunt with the family, especially after 2 years of trying to stay home and save the hospital system, then I hope you enjoy that too. I hope the weather is good for you next Sunday. Here in the Lehigh Valley, it was winter again today. I don't think we even broke into the 50s today. It's been windy and cold and gray, and it kind of seemed like winter again here. Hopefully next week will be better. But we just wish you the best and a wonderful Easter, as we're starting to head toward the end of the school year, end of the college higher education years, especially for finals are right around the corner. A summer of no Omicron, although I think it's the A2 plus variant, I think it's called now, which seems to be COVID cases in the UK have absolutely exploded this past week, but deaths are down. The A2 plus, if I have that right, I'm doing it from memory, I could have that wrong, but that variant seems to be extremely and very easily highly contagious, but nowhere near as affecting the body. Doesn't make you anywhere near as sick, but I hope I wish you, beg you to have a safe, enjoyable, happy Easter, whether it's the egg hunt or church or both. We beg you to have a wonderful and safe Easter, so we will not be with you next week. And again, I owe you all a great deal of, again, of an apology, really, because we were not here last week. We did a show before that, then we were off, then we did, I think for probably the past 8 weeks or so, if I'm remembering correctly, we've probably only done, I think, 4 shows in the last 2 months between petitions and campaigning and health and family matters here. We just haven't been with you on a regular basis, and that's not a good thing for any type of program like this. I mean, there's a reason why no one watches TV in the summer, right? Because it's all repeats. So when we're not with you on a regular basis, it may be a little bit of out of sight, out of mind. So all of you, every single one of you that has been part of the program tonight, has remembered that we are here. Every single group that has allowed me to share this program, I'm so grateful to all of you. And when I see it pop up in the Facebook notifications, you know, so-and-so liked your post in this group, and it's usually the show announcement or the show itself, it just means a lot to us. We remain, unless I'm told differently, and I haven't found anything really yet, we are one of, if not the only, live, interactive, progressive media in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and throughout the country, for that matter. There's a severe, for every 10 right-wing nut job hosts there are in this country, there's less than 1 progressive host. And we are certainly the only ones here in Pennsylvania. There are some other podcasts that do tremendous work, and goodness knows they certainly get bigger guests than I. But there isn't always the interactive quality. They record, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all have jobs. But we remain live. We remain here. You can comment. You can yell at me. You can ask me questions. As Randall shows you every week, you can call. It's what we're here for. Interactive. I'm not here to lecture you. NPR is lovely, but it's very lectury. I'm not here to lecture you. I want to talk with you, not at you. So let me just get back to something that I think has kind of been a part of what has been happening here at home lately. And it's become this realization to me of what we have become in this country. And that is, if we're not working, if we are not generating revenue for the top 1%, and then whatever measly dollars are left over to us, if we're not spending them, creating even more wealth for that very same top 1%, we don't count. We don't matter to them. And sometimes not even to our own government. At all levels. If we are not somehow generating revenue, it's almost as if in a sort of like sci-fi dystopian novel type way, that once we cease to become revenue generators, our citizenship ends. It's why healthcare companies don't want to cover sick people, because they're not profitable. Rich people don't want to pay a living wage because that's their money. And then when you do get some money, they want to take it back from you. I think I've told the story on the program before that a man who's probably still my best mate on the planet moved back to the UK about a year ago already. This summer, it'll be a year, I think. Actually, no, it'll be, well, it feels like forever. Oh, that's all I can say. It's my best friend, so I haven't seen him in ages. Who told me, we were having a conversation watching a football match, and he could see the pain that I was in. I have kidney stones. I have had 2 surgeries on my neck. There's more metal in my neck than bone at this point. The pain runs down both arms, and now whatever I've done to my lower back, the pain goes down both legs. My leg goes numb when I'm driving. I really need glasses. I couldn't tell you the last time I went to a dentist, because I can't afford any of it. And he could see I suffer from migraines. I could see that he was just looking at me and seeing the pain I was in, and he could tell. And I caught his eye. I guess I could feel him staring at me. And I just looked at him and I said, for all the work I do in politics, and for all the way I really watch politics in the UK, because I think when you watch another nation's politics, you learn about your own. So I watched, if you don't watch Prime Minister's Questions Time in the British Parliament, you should. And it should make you wonder why the president doesn't have to go down into the well of Congress and take questions. Something we should do in this country. It's part of the British form of government, and it's something that we should have adopted here. But that said, I watch PMQs. I actually pay attention to UK politics because I have friends from the UK, and my best mate moves back there, and I paid attention to it before he even got here. But so I said to him that, my very, very limited knowledge of the UK and of Europe generally, I can't help but think that given the condition that my body is in, that if I lived in Europe, in the UK, Ireland, Germany, France, Portugal, Spain, especially the Scandinavian countries, who are even more advanced than those others, or the Netherlands, that I wouldn't have to work anymore. I've been working since I was 15, full time, since I was 15 years old. And he looked at me and he said, you don't have to wonder, you wouldn't be working. You've done your bit for society. And we believe it's time for society to take care of you. And maybe we don't like the language, take care of you. But the other sentiment I think is important. You've done enough. You deserve a quality of life. And if working is quite literally killing you, then don't work anymore. Is that such an advanced form of thinking that the Europeans can do it, Asian countries do it, Australia does it, New Zealand, but we can't? Canada does it. Have we become so dominated that if it's not profitable, it's not a thing? It's un-American if it's not profitable. Am I un-American because I'm not profitable? Am I only worth something to society when I'm profitable? Because that's what it feels like. According to even someone as mainstream as Mitt Romney, if I had to stop working tomorrow because my back and my spine are so severely damaged that I quite literally could not work anymore, suddenly I'm a taker. I'm somehow less of a human being. I'm somehow un-American. Is that really what we've become? Is that really the United States now? Is that who we are? There's always going to be a percentage of people that take advantage of the system, period. There just are. In a nation of 330 million people, somebody's going to cheat. It just is. If there was a universal basic income of $2,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month, something, yeah, there's a good chance I wouldn't work anymore. I would do this program 5 days a week, even if only for an hour a day. But my body is degraded. I can't stand up straight. It's painful to walk, sit, drive, stand, breathe. My goodness, please don't ever be here when I sneeze. But somehow we have forged this sense in America, especially since the onset of the Reagan era, where Mr. Reagan tried to tell us all that we're not a society, we're not a community, we're just a bunch of rugged individuals. That somehow, because my body is so broken down that I just simply cannot work 40 hours anymore in a week, that somehow I'm less of a human being. So I mentioned to you earlier that I took 2 days off this week. I still did almost 40 hours in 3 days. Is that who we are? That our value, our intrinsic, inherent, ethereal value, what we put out into the universe, is lessened if we cannot generate income for someone else. I think we're better than that. I think we're better than that. I hope we are still better than that. I want to mention a couple interesting votes that happened in Congress this week. We mentioned them during Tammie's visit. I want to just highlight them to you again in the 9 minutes or so remaining in the program. 2 really important resolutions were voted on in the House of Representatives this week. One resolution was quite simple. It was just simply supporting NATO. 63 Republican House members voted against it. Think about that. 63 Republican members of Congress voted against a resolution, not legislation, not new law, a resolution supporting NATO. Think about what Tamie and I were talking about asking the tough questions of our opposition. Does that mean that those 63 Republican House members do not support NATO? Does it mean they support the Russian Federation? Because certainly, if the tides were turned, that's what they would be asking Democrats. You voted against it. Oh, I guess you hate NATO. I guess you hate freedom and democracy and children and yellow ribbons and sunshine and birds. So why aren't we asking them? Another vote took place, another House resolution encouraging the Department of Justice to aid and investigate war crimes in Ukraine. 6 Republican House members voted against it. They voted, if you look at it from the other direction, they voted in support of the suppression of evidence of war crimes. And one of them was from right here in Pennsylvania. The insurrectionist himself, Scott Perry. He voted against allowing the Department of Justice to collect evidence of war crimes? What is he hiding? Is he encouraging war crimes? Does he support war crimes? Why aren't we asking these questions? When you think about the 6 members who voted against that resolution, 2 of them were from Arizona. Gosar was one of them. Marjorie Taylor Greene voted against it. Scott Perry voted against it. That's 4. Forgive me, I cannot remember the other 2. One of them was from Kentucky, Guthrie, I think his name is. And forgive me, I'm forgetting the 6th. Think about some of the really off the wall, I mean, right out of a horror film kind of casting members of the House that voted to encourage DOJ to collect this evidence. Louis Gohmert voted for that. Lauren Boebert voted for it. Matt Gaetz, Madison Cawthorn. But Scott Perry voted against it. Why do the people that hate government so much, why do so many of the people who voted and encouraged and worked and schemed and planned to end the American government, they're all running to be part of it? Because at some point it isn't about government. It's about money. Was Scott Perry a millionaire when he got to Congress? Honestly, I don't know. I doubt it. He is now. These people are not legislators. They're not lawmakers. They're employees. The billionaires of this country have crossed into a dangerous, dangerous area where they are willing to end the American government as we know it, as outlined in the Constitution, so that the money keeps rolling in. Democracy is bad for business. They've decided democracy is bad for business. And if we could just get that out of the way, then we could really get rich. You already are rich. You already have more money than you'll ever spend or ever need. But that's what this class of people have decided. You don't need democracy is just getting in the way of business. It's getting in the way of profit. People like Scott Perry, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Paul Gosar, Lauren Boebert, they enjoy the power. They do. They enjoy being political figures. They enjoy being looked up to by the adoring cult members of the Republican corporation. They love it. But they're also getting rich from it. Now, Miss Greene, I actually think is pretty legitimately mentally unstable. It's just my opinion. I don't think Scott Perry's unstable. I think he wants to be rich. And giving the billionaires what they want will get him there. I think Matt Gaetz might be unstable. I think Louis Gohmert probably doesn't know where he is half the time. He just kind of gets pointed in a direction and he gets words put in front of him. But they know if they do the bidding of the people that own them, they might get a piece of the pie. And when you're talking about a piece of a pie, and that pie is literally trillions of dollars of government spending and hundreds of billions of private profit, you don't need a very big piece to become generationally wealthy. One last word on our loss here in our family. If I had any idea of how to show you or share the screen to show you a picture of Sis, I would do so. And I'm kind of doing it on the fly, and I really shouldn't be, but I'm trying to do that. Showing all photo. Oh, I see, because it's in by date. Let me see. Let me see if I can find a good one really quick. Sorry, I should have planned this a little ahead of time. It's not the best picture because their eyes are lit up from the flash. It's kind of funny, that one. When I'm realizing I didn't take nearly enough pictures. That's not a bad one. I wonder, how do I do that? Share. Oh, I can't do this now. Can I? No, I can't do that. Okay. I will do it. Let me do it this way real quick. I shouldn't have done this on the fly. I apologize. It's really bad radio right now. It's terrible radio, to be honest. Let me show you this. I will do it this way. It's not the greatest, but this is our family. Sis is the gray cat. Guy is the black cat. And that's our family. That's our little family. So Sis is who we said goodbye to on what we believe was really early Tuesday morning. And the ironic thing is that this picture, so Tuesday was this was only from April 2nd. So not even a week later, she was gone. And she wasted away. And as I said, she had several strokes. And it was a good thing. She went in her sleep. And when I say good thing, I mean, stubborn girl I always thought she would make me do it to her. She was going to make me make that decision. Isn't it something how we can make that decision for our furry family members, but we can't do it for our human ones? It's something along the line of, gosh, 75+% of all our healthcare dollars are spent within the last 5 years of our lives because we fear death so much. I know that Sis was not ready to go, but her body gave out. She was 20 years old. In the same way that we're taught that dog years is about 7 to 1, cat years are roughly between 5.5 and 6 to 1. They don't age. They age at a slower rate than dogs. So if she was 20 at 6, she was 120. 20 times 5, she was 100. Either way, she was old. But it is really profound, the silence in the house, even with the three of us still here. Her presence has left a massive hole in our family. We can certainly do better for our furry family members. For God's sakes, with Easter coming, don't give rabbits as a gift. They are alive. They are sentient. They have feelings. They are self-aware. They are not gifts. They are a lifetime commitment, or at least a 10-year commitment. Bunnies usually live about 10 years, if taken care of properly. We should be enlightened enough as a species to do better for our furry friends. Dogs adopted us. The best science and anthropology tells us that dogs adopted us. Wolves, later, broken down into the hundreds of different breeds that there are and so on and so on, but that they adopted us. Wolves somewhat domesticated themselves. They began following human tribes. They picked us, and they deserve everything that any other member of the family would get. They are a commitment because they're sentient and alive, and they have feelings. They feel pain, they feel loss, they feel sadness, they feel happiness. They are family. So I beg you that even with the profound, profound loss we have had here, and if you're a long time listener, you've heard Sis at some point. She would walk in here and just start yelling because she was mad that I wasn't downstairs hanging out with her or allowing her to lay on me as if she were giving me the gift, except that she was giving me the gift. No living creature had been a day to day to day to day presence in my life than that cat. 20 years. Every day, there she was. And I am not the same. There's a portion of you out there that thinking to yourselves, it's just a cat. I suppose. But not to me. And not to Kristen. And not to pretty much anybody that ever came across her. She was very close to April. April was here 3 years ago for our very first show, making sure, because I was really nervous and really losing it. And April came here, I think at 2 p.m, and we hung out for 3 full hours before I ever started. And there's my other cat making noises right now. And her and Sis clicked immediately. Sis talked to her and rubbed her and louder. I mean, they just bonded immediately. So they are family. They're important. They matter. If you are considering adding to your family, I would strongly encourage you to make it a furry family member, whether it's a dog or a cat. I actually don't think too many of the other types of souls that we consider quote unquote pets are quite proper. Ducks and bunnies and birds and fish. I just don't see it myself. I just don't. I know people have them and love them, and that's fine. And maybe I'm just a traditionalist in that old way. I think those other souls are meant to be free. I don't think they're meant to be domesticated. But dogs and cats, yeah, they chose us. So adopt. Please, I beg you to adopt. Don't buy. Don't support these puppy mills. Don't support these cat mills. Save a soul off the street that's struggling to survive. Why are there so many stray animals? Because we created that situation. Humans created that situation by overbreeding them, by these mills that pump out hundreds of puppies in a year and then get cast aside. This is a problem we created. We can solve it. Don't buy, adopt. And if you do, know that it's a commitment for years and years and years. But you will get so much more out of it. Sis gave me way more than I ever gave her. I know some people would dispute that the way that I tried my best to do the best for her entire life. But at the end of the day, all of the furry family members that I have had to say goodbye to, and she is the fifth one now. A dog and 4 cats. They all gave me more than I gave them. That will do it for us for the 10th of April. If you missed any of tonight's program, whenever George can get out of the basement and deal with the mess that he's dealing with, he'll convert the show for us. It'll appear on YouTube. It won't be there as quickly as it normally is, but it will get there eventually. Please keep an eye on our YouTube channel and you can catch up on tonight's program. And of course, everywhere that we've shared it on Facebook, if you just scroll through those different timelines, you will find us. Until for 2 weeks from now, really, we will not be with you next week, as I mentioned. But we will return on the 24th with our 3rd anniversary program. Every single guest that has ever been on this program, you are welcome to come back and see us. It's just going to be an open forum, whoever drops by. That's my big plan. Just that's our anniversary. Hope to have April here in studio, and we're just going to be hanging out. Every single person who's ever been on this program is welcome to return and say hello. Very, very simple plan. Could be a short show if none of them show up. And then back into full gear after, when we get into May, as we approach the primaries throughout the country. That is it for us. I beg you, until for 2 weeks from now, please have a blessed, peaceful, happy, family-filled, joy-filled, amen. Happy Easter. Blessings to all of you. Please stay safe. We will see you on April 24th. Thank you for being here. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Good night.